Hey, what's up everybody? Happy Tuesday night. It's GameFace episode 28 right here on Sifted. I'm Shane Satterfield.
And I'm Matt Kyle.
And we are here today to deliver to you the best of the week in video games. It's been a pretty good week for Sifted. Obviously, the big debut of Pactor Factor went off this weekend without a hitch. Well, maybe a little hitch. Didn't quite go up at noon
Briefly.
like it was supposed to.
Nobody saw that.
Yeah, no, people saw it. Like, it's hilarious, dude. Like, it went up, and like it literally was up for I think a minute. And I found an audio issue in it, like right off the top, and I was like, oh crap! Like I have to like fix the audio, and there's a whole process that goes on. Like you have to like re-render it in the editing program, and then it has to go and get compressed, and then it has to get uploaded through the FTP, and then it has to be brought in through the admin. It's this crazy like thing that you have to do just to replace a video. In that minute, like 5 or 6 people found it, and like one guy had watched it to like the second topic before I like got it off the servers. Impressive sifters, impressive stuff. So I did get it back up like an hour and a half later. That's how long it takes just to do that whole process. But after that, I think it all went well. I think everyone liked the show. I think everyone was surprised how long the show was.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that long going forward. You guys aren't remembering, like he kind of introed like who he was in this episode, and then he kind of explained like the whole genesis of Hello Babies. Like that took up like 5 or 6 minutes or something like that. So most episodes are going to be anywhere from like 12 to 15. They're not going to be around 20 going forward. But overall, really happy with the reception. Everyone seems to be happy that Pac is back. He seems to be happy that he's back. I think he's excited that he's back doing the show again, which is great. So thank you to everybody who went on social media and retweeted, and same thing on Facebook. Anyone who shared it, I really appreciate it. It's a big deal. Stuff like that makes a big difference in the modern internet environment. So thank you very much, and please keep doing it. There's still a ton of people out there. There are millions of people that don't know Pac is doing a new show still. So when you see us post the links for that stuff, make sure that you send them out to all your followers and all your friends, and we will greatly appreciate it. I have another announcement coming up. This week, we are going to launch a new feature on Sifted called Gifted. And what Gifted is it's a way for you to give people subscriptions to Sifted, or if you want to request a subscription to Sifted, you can do that as well. So it's a really cool interface. Basically, you can go and you can just buy a subscription, and then you can put in someone's email address and send that subscription to them as a gift for the holidays. Likewise, if you're a trial user or you're a basic user and you would like to become a premium user, you can go into that same interface. You can put in as many email addresses as you want, and you can basically send that out to everybody who buys you stuff for the holidays, and they can buy you a gift certificate for Sifted. So it's something we've wanted to do for a long time. We're finally getting around to it. Kind of had to crack the whip with the holidays here and get Brent on it, but it is almost done. In fact, I think it is pretty much done at this point. It's launching before the end of the week.
I think you should call them gift certificates.
Well, we spell it GIFTD, just like Sifted.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you'll be seeing that rolling out before the end of the week. And then on last week's show, we talked about the forums. So what happened was, after we did the show, I went back and started actually looking at the forums. There was a bunch of stuff that we needed to fix before it really got into your hands. But the other part of it, too, is that the response to it was so positive from all of our premium subscribers that we're just going to open it up to all premium subscribers. So the basic kids will not be able to get to the forums early, but anyone who is a premium subscriber will be able to get into the forums probably tomorrow. There will be a big promotional image on the homepage to let you know they're there. They're looking real good. They're looking unlike any other forum you've ever seen. We have hand custom built these things from the ground up. This is all our own code. None of that V-bulletin stuff that you see all over the internet. It does a really good job of featuring people who are premium subscribers to give you a little bit of clout on the site if you guys have went and spent the $30 to become premium. I think everyone is going to love them. So just want a couple final tweaks. We don't want to make them perfect before you guys get your hands on them because we want to have you guys kind of help create sort of the final form of our forums. So that is coming up, and we're really excited about that. Lots of big game evals coming up in the next week. The games are just flowing out. I have Fallout 4 sitting at home right now. I have not even cracked it. It's driving me crazy, Matt.
What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm playing Rise of the Tomb Raider right now. I'm trying to get through it, and it's like, the thing is the embargo for both of those games are up on the same day. But the good news was I got Rise of the Tomb Raider like way before Fallout, so I've been playing it for a while. I'm coming down the home stretch. We're going to talk about that game on the show today.
Which category of the game eval does not Fallout 4 knock it down for?
Yeah. Exactly. So it is hard. Like, I go to sit down to play Rise of the Tomb Raider, and there's Fallout sitting right there, right next to my Xbox One, and I'm like, man, I want to play it so bad. So, and there are all those video leaks that came out this week.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of that stuff?
I watched some of it, but I didn't want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a big anti-spoiler person, but I'm just like, well, I don't need to watch someone else play something I'm going to play in like 6 days.
Right, a handful of days, yeah. So anyway, lots of big stuff going on the site. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys are too. But for now, let's get to the Big Six. All right, so hot off the presses, Matt.
Whew.
Big news cracked last night. I think it was like midnight Pacific, the story came out.
Yeah.
Activision purchases King.
The Candy Crush people.
Which that's all they do. That's it. You really don't have to say anything else about King.
Yeah. The people who tried to patent candy?
Yeah.
Isn't that they tried to... All right.
They should feel really fortunate that somebody didn't patent the Match 3 game before they took it. And, dude, one thing I will say, and I actually tweeted this last
Look at
night.
The balls on these people.
Yeah, seriously. Like, they stole a genre that someone else created, and they're trying to, like, patent candy.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say, and I tweeted this last night whenever the news broke, is that I've got to hand it to King, man. Like, if you can take a genre that has been cloned by everybody so many times, like, just think back to when we were working at G4, and we would sit on our DSs and we'd play, like, the network. What was that game? What was it called?
Zookeeper.
Zookeeper.
Yeah.
Again, like, why is Candy Crush big in Zookeeper, that was like 15 years ago?
Yeah.
It blows my mind that they managed to take this genre that is basically freeware and turn it into a $6 billion company.
Yeah, well,
billion, that's with a B.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like $5.9 billion. That's $2 billion more than Disney paid for Star Wars.
Dude, that is insane.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Candy Crush worth $2 billion more than Star Wars?
Here's the thing, so...
I'll give you 3 guesses which one's still going to be relevant in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, the Match 3 is still pretty big after all this time.
Match 3, sure, but Candy Crush?
But look, to most people, Candy Crush is Match 3.
Well, that's the thing that King understood, was that there's a whole bunch of aunts and uncles and grandmas out there that had no idea Bejeweled existed. You know, like, they had no idea this thing was out there. And your first exposure to a Match 3 can be a catastrophic life event.
Yeah. It can, yeah.
And you've got all these gating tricks in Candy Crush that, like, suck in real money, but it's like, oh, just pay 99 cents to get 30 more levels. That's good.
It's
right?
like all the why wasn't the Puzzle Quest games the one that went big? Because they're so much better than, like, just a straight up Match 3.
But that's exactly it. Like, they're too complicated for the people that made Candy Crush a big hit.
Well,
that wasn't us.
Yeah.
You know? It was just people that want to, like, play a quick little game, and they don't want to worry about leveling up their guy, or, like, oh, I got to do the red one because my sword attack is stronger than my magic attack. No, they just want to match candy.
Well, my mom today texted me. When my mom texts me about video games, you know a story's big. Yeah. And so she's like, Shane, like, I saw Activision bought King today. And, like, she loves Candy Crush. She spends money on Candy Crush. And she's like, why would they do that? And I was like, to reach people like you.
Yep.
This gives them the gateway to basically use King as a Trojan horse to get their properties in front of you. So, look, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Call of Duty crush or like a Destiny crush or whatever. I mean, look.
I'll play a Transformers crush.
Right.
I know they still have that license.
I mean, I'm sure that's going to happen. I mean, but going back to what I was saying, like, what King did here is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
$6 billion for a Match 3 franchise. And, like, you say, well, why would they pay that much for it? Well, the truth of the matter is like, if you look at the price of the stock for King, that's pretty much what they're valued at. Like, it's a little more, but you have to pay a little more. You can't just pay the stock price.
Yeah, you got to make it worthwhile to the people selling the company.
Yeah, so, I mean, financially, it makes sense. And Michael Pachter came out today. Is, on these days, Pachter just gets the work, baby. Like, and again, when you curate for Sifted, you see every article about every story, and every single outlet had reached out to him for a quote. And basically his quote was, like, they got a steal. Activision got a steal at $6 billion. Like, the world's gone crazy, Matt. It has gone crazy.
When does Sifted get a branded match 3 game?
I'm really starting to rethink the strategy here. Maybe I should have just started a match 3 game.
Well, you could take each of the story squares, and they could all be all the different colors. Like you have to match them together, and then when you clear the board, you get like the last story pops up.
There it is. Yeah. So huge story. I mean, look. Do you think, Matt, that at the end of the day that Activision is going to get its value out of this?
I don't know. I mean, I assume that if someone who spends $6 billion for something, they have a plan.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, they didn't just like wake up last weekend and were like, hey, why don't we think about buying King? Like, they've been thinking about this.
Yeah, this has been in process. I understood the multi-billion-dollar purchase of Mojang better.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're locking in an entire generation that grew up playing that thing on their iPad. In 20 years, the nostalgia boom for Minecraft is going to make, it's like the 80s stuff now that we grew up with. Like, you're going to be selling all that Minecraft shit.
Well, it's just merchandising alone for Minecraft.
35-year-old men who all of a sudden remember their Minecraft days when they were 5.
Right.
And, like, so that makes sense to me. Candy Crush, like, I guess you're just buying you're buying the eyes of an entire generation that Activision otherwise has no access to. You're buying Mama Satterfield, who otherwise would never see anything Activision wants to sell her.
Yeah. I mean, the other part of it, too, is that you're getting distribution.
Yeah.
So you look at it like, let's look at it from the perspective of something that we can kind of relate to, which is like cable and like television, like networks, and getting on DirecTV. It's like when we were at Tech TV, we were in like 47 million homes, and then they merged with G4, and then G4 bought us so that because G4 was in like 20 million.
So
G4 bought Tech TV so that they could go from 20 million homes to like 60 million homes, and it's kind of the same thing here, like.
Because like Activision doesn't have a really robust mobile presence.
It has like none.
So
it is flopped at mobile like hardcore, and everybody knows that it's the next frontier. It's where all the money is. I think mobile gaming has already surpassed console gaming for revenue. So if you think about what they would have to invest to start from scratch and to try to build this audience,
and how many failed attempts
they've already had,
years and years of trial and error.
They've already had, and how many more they will have until they find something that catches. Still, $6 billion, man. That's 6,000 to millions. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what is it? It's like 1 million seconds is 3 months.
Yeah.
And 1 billion seconds is 33 years.
Yeah. So
like
that's a good
The difference
way.
between 1 million and 1 billion is big.
It is huge.
Like, that is a lot of things.
It really is. Like, and there's 6 of them.
A lot of dollars.
There are some people partying hard tonight, man. Hopefully they survive so they can spend all their money.
Like, I hope whoever drew those jelly beans never has to work again. Because good job, sir or madam, whoever did that.
And it was funny too. Like I was gathering media for this segment, all the media you guys have just been watching through the show, and like they just do things completely differently. Like I was trying to find videos that they had created that lasted more than 30 seconds. There was 2. One of them was like a 2-minute documentary about the making of Candy Crush, and the other one was about
we played this Bejeweled thing, or like, what if it was candy?
Yeah, exactly.
What if we charged you for that?
Exactly. And then the other one was like a 2-minute video on a launch party for one of their. And dude, it was so crazy.
No story trailer?
Dude, there was nobody at the party. Like, literally. It looked like there was like 10 people there, but you could tell they had spent literally probably like $15 million on the party. Like, they had like rented a boat that went down the River Thames and down through London. Like, it was just...
Well, every single one of those people is worth a whole lot of money right
They
now.
are. So. They are worth a whole lot of money. So what I say is, touche, King. Like, I'm not going to hate... I'm not going to be jealous. I admire what they did. Like, whoever ran that business is really freaking smart. And
yeah, they played it a little dirty in places, but it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I guess, you saw this week that, too, Facebook came out and said that they're going to halt the Candy Crush requests on Facebook.
Wow.
Thank God.
That to be spammy enough that Facebook says enough, I didn't even know that was possible.
Yep. Well, yeah, they said this week, Zuckerberg came out and said, yeah, we're going to stop allowing them to do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects their business, because I would guess that it probably has a significant impact on their business. So
it's like one of those things where it's like, you see those businesses are successful because that, like, the legal loophole hasn't closed yet.
Right.
And like once it's closed, no one else can do anything about it,
UV
but
Bowl.
It's still like UV Bowl. That's true. Like, we've been mercifully free of that for a while now.
Yeah, because the loophole got closed.
Yeah, the tax loophole got closed, so now you can't make those movies anymore. Nope. And he's not happy.
He is not happy about it, that's for sure. So, I don't know. Again, congratulations, King. I wish I had done what... I don't even know what they did. I was about to say, I wish I could have done that, but I don't even know what they did. I wish I could do it.
I look forward to reading the book.
Yeah.
There's a book there.
There's definitely a book there. There's going to be another book written after all these people get all this money.
Yeah.
What they do with it. So, again, congratulations. Best of luck, Activision. I honestly don't think it's a great investment. I think maybe half of that I could see, but
I wouldn't have... I mean, but then again, I feel like if you have $6 billion... what are you doing?
Yeah.
it's like you win.
Well, the other caveat of this before we move on to the next topic is that King has done a terrible job of finding other franchises that'll be successful.
True.
Like everything else they've tried has been crap, and
maybe Activision can step in and
they think that they
find
can
a direction.
Maybe they think that they can just tag the word Saga onto anything and it's going to sell, and it hasn't worked out that way.
I also enjoyed when they tried to claim control of the word Saga.
Yeah.
And Norway was like, hey,
yeah,
that's our word,
yeah,
and it describes things very important to our culture, and you can't have it.
Or 8,000 JRPGs with the word Saga in their names.
Frontiers. But I just like it was great to me. I mean, other people call things Saga. There's the Star Wars Saga, but I love that like Norway was like, hey, that's important to us. We would like to continue being allowed to use that word because it means a thing.
I also get a little weepy, too, when I think about how many awesome games for consoles could have been made with $6 billion.
Yeah, I would have bought a lot of Shadow of the Colossuses.
Yeah, I would have bought a lot of good stuff. So it's a big bet for Activision. We'll see how it all plays out. I am not optimistic that it was a smart move.
I wouldn't need anywhere near $6 billion to make my Just Cause 3 with a Jedi game.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So, hopefully Sifted is still here 5 years from now when all this plays out and we can go back and say, we were right.
Well, hopefully someone buys us for $6 billion.
Yeah.
And we can all say, we are rich.
Yeah. Well, that would be great. All right, it's time to move on to the next topic. It has been... I don't know if I would say it was a big week for Nintendo, just lots of little things.
Yeah, Nintendo popped up a lot.
Yeah, and none of the stories were huge. Well, maybe the mobile stuff was huge, but just lots of little things. So we wanted to kind of corral them all into one topic, like a Nintendo roundup, if you will, for the week. The first thing we're going to talk about is Miitomo, or is that Miitomo?
Miitomo, I guess.
Miitomo. I guess it depends on whether you're in Japan or not.
Yeah, I think Americans would probably say Miitomo.
Yeah. That's how I was saying it anyway, in my head.
Miitomo. I mean, it's a lot of vowels for an English word.
Yeah. So basically, Nintendo has announced its first mobile app. I wouldn't call it a game. I'd call it
I don't really know what it's a presence.
It's really just like a social network that works with Miis, is the best way I can tell. I don't know if it has Street Pass function. The bottom line is that the details are very, very scarce. There's not a lot of information.
It really seems like Nintendo's just sort of sticking its toe in the mobile water to see what happens and see if there's any piranhas in there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a Miiverse for mobile phones, where you have your Mii that represents you. I don't know if they're street passing it. I don't even know if mobile phones can do that.
I don't know. I mean, if you choose to share that info, but that seems kind of not Nintendo.
Could you do that through Bluetooth?
Yeah, well, you can do it through the cell network. I mean, it's like the big like
I was saying physically.
Yeah, I mean Ingress and those games like that can tell you if there's a player near you,
right,
and that kind of thing. But you have to choose to share that with the phone and with the app, and so
the Mii stuff on 3DS is like that.
Which is but it's the 3DS thing is a lot more anonymous, whereas a lot of I'm sure they'll do it their own way, but the way it does it on most of the apps I've seen is a lot more real time. It's a little more, hey, I could go find this person if I really wanted to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's not really how Nintendo rolls because they've got so many young players.
Now here's the thing: a lot of people are really down on this, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be a failure and whatnot." And look, if it really is just a social network where you just dress up your Mii and just send messages to each other and post funny pictures to each other, it's going to be a miserable failure because you can't compete with Facebook. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Nintendo. You're not going to be able to compete with Facebook. People are already using Instagram for photos. Trying to create a social network from scratch to get people on board with it, in my opinion, is really stupid. On the other hand, if it does have some kind of Street Pass functionality and it does work like the built-in game on the 3DS where you would then take your friends into like a simple RPG and play with those people, I think it might have a chance then.
It'd be a fun little thing. Here's the thing: is I think to some degree at least, like, I don't think a lot of people are going to care about this outside of like the people who are already on the Wii U or on the 3DS. It's kind of they're depending on their fans to sort of like pick this up and run with it. And I'm wondering if it's sort of like it's their first foray into mobile. It's got a lot of connectivity to it. Is this sort of like a quick test? Like, is it kind of a stress test almost to see, like, all right, let's see how this platform works. Let's see how we deal with hardware that we didn't make. Let's see how how agile and how what we have to deal with when one of these things goes live. Because it's kind of better to have this Miitomo thing be where all these disasters happen than like your first big like Mario mobile game or something. If that launches and everybody's like, this shit doesn't work, like that's a disaster. But if this has like growing pains, it's not as big a deal because you're dealing with your hardcore fan base who's going to be very forgiving, and you're dealing with like something that's not going to set the world on fire. So you kind of have time to figure out the bumps and the jumps.
So one of the big deals was the delay. It's not coming out when they said it was going to, and that caused its stock to just go into a free fall.
That dropped a lot more than I would have thought.
Yeah, I was really shocked.
Investors are really hot for this mobile foray, apparently.
Yep, and then the other part of it is that, people were disappointed that it wasn't like a Mario or a Zelda or something like that. But Matt, I honestly wonder if Nintendo is going to put its big properties on mobile, because when you do that, like, it devalues those IPs. So it's like, people expect to pay $1 or $2 for a game. So if you put out a Mario game on mobile and you only charge somebody $1 or $2 for it, suddenly it's a lot harder to ask them for that $30 handheld game or that $60 console game. Because the other part of it is that mobile handsets are really catching up tech-wise. Like, you look at some of these games on, like, smartphones, they look pretty damn good. Like, I mean, look, they have an advantage in that they're being displayed on a small screen, and so it's shrunk down, and, if it was blown up at 1080p, it probably wouldn't look half as good as it does.
But even on, like, iPads and stuff, it still looks pretty good.
But look, the 3DS is getting away with that big time. I mean, you try to blow up a 3DS game, it looks atrocious. So, I don't know, Matt. Like, I am really wondering if we're going to see Nintendo's big properties on mobile, and if we do, I feel like it might just be, like, Match 3 stuff. Like, there's Pokemon Shuffle already, and, like...
I think it's going to be a very long time, if ever, that you're playing the new Pokemon, legit, full-fledged Pokemon game on a mobile platform. I think maybe they might be picking and choosing properties that will become mobile properties. Like, I think Pikmin makes a lot of sense in a touchscreen environment.
It hasn't done all that well on consoles in the first
place.
So
try it over there. Try it as a free play thing. It's also got all the product placement of all the little artifacts, the Duracell batteries and all that stuff, which is another revenue stream you can
imagine
take through
paying to get the rock Pikmin.
Yeah,
or like there's a model there for sure for
or
that
powering
game.
them up. Like you can pay real money for like a power up that makes your Pikmin invincible or super hard to kill for like 5 minutes or something, or like. Watch, you pick up a Duracell battery, watch a Duracell ad. You get a little power up for that. Like there's a lot of integration you could do there. But I'm thinking, what I'm describing is very run-of-the-mill mobile. I don't expect...
What about a Pokemon game where you just have to pay for every Pokemon you add to your party? Instead of finding them and capturing them, you can just pay for them.
So call a Pokemon Amiibo is what that is. It's like
Pokemiibo.
No, I could see. What I'm saying is very standard mobile stuff. I'm sure Nintendo probably will think outside of the box more.
And probably be a lot smarter than we are about it.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, who knows? Like I know they said a few like last week or something. It was like they're talking about how like fans really want like an open world in the new Zelda game. So instead of giving them what they asked for, let's give them something they won't expect that's similar to what they want. And I'm just like, no, just give us what we want. Like, and like, but there's people that will always say there's like Nintendo knows better.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to look at the sales and be like, do they?
Sometimes it doesn't
Sometimes
seem
not.
like they do. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you should just give them
Skyrim
Skyrim with Link.
Right.
Maybe that's I don't know. But it's going to be very interesting to see. And I think you're right. I think they're going to hold their big. I'm sure they'll make appearances, like maybe like. Kind of like a WarioWare style game might include like a lot of the big shots, but like as far as like a full-fledged, one thing I will speculate on if any of their big properties were to have a full-fledged mobile installment, I would say that's where they put Metroid.
I don't know about that. Although it hasn't sold well either, so...
Yeah, I hope not, because I would prefer full-fledged, whatever, NX Metroid game, but I wonder if that's where you put, like, a Metroid 2D game at some point.
Probably make people happier than Other M did.
Yes. But, like, I mean, for me, at least, that would be one way I would, wholeheartedly, still some skepticism, but I would be more willing to embrace the mobile Nintendo era if you started it out with something everybody's wanted forever. And people have really wanted that portable, side-scrolling Metroid ever since Metroid Dread was leaked, announced, canceled, and delayed.
Right.
So you put something similar to that out, and you might win a lot of goodwill on top of having kind of the more mobile-centric titles out there.
One thing I will say before we move on to the next Nintendo topic is that this shows that people care a lot about Nintendo on mobile, especially as stockholders. Like, they're banking on Nintendo's mobile initiative doing really well.
Yeah, so this is going to be a big, big deal, and I think you're going to see it show up a lot on Pactor's show.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit, there's very few major business maneuvers to match this one in the industry in the next few years.
Yep. All right, so the next Nintendo topic we want to talk about is an executive from EA came out this week and said that, yes, Electronic Arts would consider working with Nintendo again on the NX. I think it was his quote was like, "We're open to any and all opportunities with Nintendo in the future."
How many times are you gonna get back together with that dude?
Yeah.
It's just like,
this wasn't Peter Moore, by the way. I think this was some guy from Europe who this quote was attributed to. So what we want to do is we want to go back and start off by looking at EA's relationship with Nintendo. So when I look back over the last couple generations of consoles, thinking about what EA has done with Nintendo, there's only really one game that really sticks out, and that game is Boom Blocks. Mm-hmm. That was the one game that that EA made specifically for Nintendo's hardware, with its hardware in mind, made use of the hardware. It was an original game that wasn't on any other platforms, supposedly developed with Steven Spielberg, which I still wonder just how true that is, but... So this game, I loved this game, Matt, by the way. I will say, I loved Boom Blocks. Anytime people would come over, I'd be like pushing on them. They look at it and be like, I don't really want to play that, man. And I'd be like, no, you got to play this. Try it. It's so fun. It's like 3D Jenga. Like, it's so great. No one would ever want to play it. And it ended up selling terribly, and it did nothing. And so that was like... And I wouldn't say it was a big bet, but I'm sure they probably gave Spielberg more money than he should have got for his idea or whatever it was. So it wasn't like they spent nothing on this. And so then they kind of moved into like the active stuff. Like there was a game called EA Sports Active that was like an exercise game. That game actually did end up coming to like some other platforms. I think it came to both 360 and PlayStation 3, if I remember correctly. It's sold with these weird like things that you strapped onto your like arms and your legs, and like these weird bands and stuff that you used. That game didn't do well. That had a whole like
I remember that stuff as like
a thing.
I remember that stuff like it was a dream.
Yeah, it was so bad dream. And it was crazy how far they went with this stuff. Like it had its own website where you could go and like you'd take your little band and you'd upload it through USB to the website, and it would track your progress and like.
It's kind of ahead of its time when you think about the Fitbit thing and everything.
Oh, yeah, it really was. But, it was for these consoles that went away, and so all the hardware...
As any Sega fan can tell you, being ahead of your time in this industry doesn't always pay off.
Not even just in this industry, in all honesty.
True.
That's just kind of the way it is. And so that was like a big initiative for EA on Wii. That failed, went away. The next one was they kind of mutated the Sims franchise with My Sims, and made it like a cutesy sim. And look, most of these games are the games that sold 1 million or better on the Wii. All these games we've been talking about sold at least 1 million, except for I think Boom Blocks didn't. But My Sims did, and it was like the cutified version of The Sims, allowed people to dress up their characters. Again, a really casual game. It was completely out of the typical wheelhouse from EA, and something that they normally would never do on the Xbox platform or the PlayStation platform. Then comes the launch of the Wii U. And so EA kind of adjusted its strategy for the Wii U and kind of went all in on the core games. And so at launch, they had Need for Speed Most Wanted. And I remember the developer from this game was so pissed off because they went the extra mile with this game. Like, a lot of developers were just porting stuff over to Wii U and weren't really paying attention to, like, the functionality of it or really writing to the metal of the hardware to get the most out of it. The developers of this game, like, wrote to the metal on the Wii U and delivered an amazing game. It was a great port. It looked incredible. It ran incredible. The game got pretty good reviews in general, not just for the Wii U, but for other platforms as well. And it tanked. It did terrible. It sold like nothing.
I remember people calling it out as like, this is the definitive version of this game.
The developer did. He said, this is the best version we've made of this game. Completely tanked. And so the other game that they had was Mass Effect 3. And if you remember when that came out for the Wii U, the Mass Effect trilogy, I think it had just come out or was about to come out.
Yeah.
And instead of like the Wii U getting the Mass Effect trilogy, the Wii U got just Mass Effect 3.
Right.
And look, say what you want about the ending of it or whatever, this game got huge review scores and was a Game of the Year candidate for pretty much every publication. It frickin' tanked. And so that was basically the entirety of games that EA made for the Wii U. They made Madden for 1 year and FIFA for 1 year, and then those 2 games. They released 4 games for the Wii U, Matt. So, do you think this is just lip service that EA's given Nintendo? It's like they just being politically correct and being like...
No, I think, I mean, I don't know how many times you can go back to that Nintendo well before you finally learn that it's, EA's had some trouble in that regard, like you say, but like, Nintendo is a major player. They're a major factor.
But I mean, look, Matt,
they could come. You never. I think the thing that EA is doing is like you never know when Nintendo might actually strike Wii again.
But look, even on the Wii, when they had 100+ million install base, those were the only games. My Sims, EA Sports Active, were the only games that sold 1 million copies for EA. And if you could look, we can go back a generation.
To 1%.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Base. Less than 1%. Way less than, because it sold way over 100 million. You can go back to the GameCube era. And look, they actually really backed Nintendo then, because they kept putting out Madden year after year on the GameCube.
On a tiny little disc.
And there was 1 year where I think the GameCube version of Madden sold 26,000 copies. Oof. And they kept putting it out. So you can see the gradual weaning of EA supporting Nintendo. And to the broader topic I'm trying to get at here is it's not just EA. If you look at the other third-party publishers, it's been the same deal. Some of them got out earlier. Like, if you look at, like, the N64 area, like, 2K was there, and Take-Two was there. Like, they made games for the N64. Got to the GameCube, they put out a couple. By the time they got to the Wii, they were done. They were out. No, Rockstar laughed when people asked them if they were going to put out Grand Theft Auto for the Wii. Like, I remember that was a dagger to some Nintendo fans' hearts. And so some of them got out sooner than others. Ubisoft, they were all in at the launch of the Wii. They put out probably the definitive version of Assassin's Creed 3 at the launch of the Wii U. And now, you think they're going to come back? Like, it's
Same
like
with Arkham City.
It's like the graphics say right now, no friendo. Like, does Nintendo have friends left in the industry as far as third parties are concerned? They're going to come back and like jump in at the beginning, or is it going to be like a wait and see approach where they wait to see if it blows up, and then we end up getting a bunch of crap games anyway that we don't really want to play because they're Nintendo-fying their library?
Well, the Wii U support, I think, was very cursory. I think that was certainly lip service, but especially in the sense, Mass Effect 3, really great game, but what do you release as a launch title on a platform that's clearly going to have mainly as an audience Nintendo people, Nintendo fans, who either they were Wii gamers and they didn't play the other Mass Effects, or they are multi-platform gamers and I guarantee they've played the other Mass Effects. Yeah. Or if they haven't played the other Mass Effects, what'd you jump in with 3? Like, it's a weird thing to launch with,
Remember there was Batman, the
Arkham City Armor Edition. Yeah, I mean, and again, probably other than the PC version, probably the definitive console version of that game. But no one cared.
So that's my thing is so they got a couple third-party publishers to put games out at the launch of the Wii U. All of them bailed pretty much directly right after.
With Ubisoft even saying we have a game finished for the Wii U, but it doesn't make financial sense to actually release it.
We've spent the money to develop it. We're not going to put it out. And granted, that game was like some junky mini-game compilation or whatever, but still...
But that was also Ubisoft's bread and butter on the Wii.
It was.
And
so that's what I'm saying. So you see this gradual weaning of Nintendo platforms by these publishers, and now here comes the NX. It's like, do they even like put out that token release at the beginning of the console's life?
I don't know. All I can say is that Nintendo's like presentational pitch to these guys better be good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's...
Like, they're going to have to see real potential in what Nintendo's doing here. And, like, I think that the biggest chance for real potential is, like, it's a fucking video game console.
Yeah.
Like, tried and true video game console.
And on parity, at least with this gen, it has to be. You have to make it easy to port games from this generation to that console. You have to make it so the developers can make an NX version of a game alongside the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions. Like, you can't create this weird ecosystem.
But do you think that's going to happen? Do you think it's really going to be?
I don't. Like,
Neither do I.
I think Nintendo's going to continue to walk to the beat of its own drum, and it's the goodwill has run out. Is the problem?
Well, I think it's like, you know, the Wii maybe taught them some weird lessons, because, like, you know, the Wii was sort of this thing.
Oh, like, we don't need third-party support.
Well, that, but like also like you don't need power parity.
Yeah.
And like it's one thing, you know, the most powerful system very rarely wins a generation, if ever.
Although it's happening this time.
It is happening this time, but like it very rarely is what really happened. You know,
it's never happened until now.
Yeah, the Wii was easily the weakest, and although the PS3 eventually caught up after years later at the end of the generation.
Yeah.
You know, PS2 definitely outclassed by the competition, etc., etc.
Both. Yeah. It was the weakest of the three.
Yeah.
And you go back to the generation before with the original PlayStation. It was the weakest.
Yeah. And like, but it doesn't matter because it had a library.
Yeah.
And the thing is that Nintendo needs to kind of realize is, yes, power doesn't matter in that regard, but you still need to be able to have people put their games on your system without going out of their way tremendously. And people were willing to make Wii-specific versions of big games in the Wii generation because, at least at first,
there was opportunity.
It was opportunity, and it was selling like crazy, and no one knew what was going on. So yeah, you needed a Call of Duty on that thing. Yeah, you needed a version of Madden on it. You needed everything. But like, you know, you're hitting a point where people have, I think the publishers sort of expect the Nintendo stuff to kind of sell Nintendo games, and that's it. So it would behoove Nintendo to have a platform that is like, porting a major multi-platform release to it is a no-brainer. Yeah. It's just like, it's just like a PC architecture. It's on parity with like the Xbox One. We can just move it over, and we don't have to like cut content or change texture detail or do anything like that. It's just an easy thing, and like, you know, it makes it. Yeah, that's the other thing is like, Nintendo needs to make it possible again for someone who owns a Nintendo console to not need another one.
Yeah.
Like a Nintendo console needs to become a viable single console.
Well, the Nintendo console has been the second console since the N64 era.
Yeah.
Since never, I mean, maybe the GameCube
20 years
you could have got
almost.
away with, but I wouldn't have wanted to just have a GameCube.
But not, you remember with the Super Nintendo where it was like, you know,
you didn't need anything else.
You didn't need a Genesis necessarily. Yeah. If you were a Nintendo fan, you loved their games. Anything, if you didn't get sucked in by something like Phantasy Star or Shining the Holy Ark or whatever, like you didn't care. Like, it was like you had all Nintendo's first party stuff. You had all the multi-platform stuff that mattered for the most part, and
you had third-party exclusives.
Third-party exclusives. You had the. I know the blood was sweat, but it was the better version of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It was. It's like it was a very viable single console. And that hasn't happened with a Nintendo console ever since. And I would like to see it happen again. Like that's the key now. Is like I don't think people want all the different consoles just to play the things they want to play.
I think pretty much everybody would be down with owning just one console.
For sure.
But that's never going to happen.
No, but like Nintendo needs to, like, there's no room for a second console that just plays one company's games now.
Yeah.
And you need, especially in this realm of mobile.
I think we found out what the market is.
Exactly.
It's 10 to 15 million people.
Yep. And so I think they need to really, I know Nintendo hates that idea, but they really need to seriously consider, like, hey, this thing needs to be like the other consoles, but Nintendo.
Yeah. All right, so the final Nintendo topic we're going to talk about is Nintendo announced the replacement for Club Nintendo this week. It's called My Nintendo, Matt, and it's pretty much the same damn thing. It's a unified account, which is something they should have done 5 years ago.
Slowly getting
Welcome
there.
to the real world, Nintendo. So you get your unified account. The only other real change that I could see, because it's still the same thing. Like, you buy their games, you get points, The points you can then spend for downloadable games. You can spend it on merchandise. You can spend it, just on a myriad things. And the only real twist is that you also get points for actually playing Nintendo's games. So they've kind of found their own way of handling achievements, in a way. Because you're getting rewarded for actually playing a game, whereas before in Nintendo's ecosystem you were not. So why would you go through all this whole process? Look, everybody knew what Club Nintendo was. Like, they had built a brand, and building a brand is hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of marketing. It takes a lot of messaging. They did all that. They did all the heavy lifting. People knew what Club Nintendo was. They knew it was Nintendo's rewards program. So, Matt, why did they create this brand new thing that's basically the same damn thing and give it a new name? I'm
sure there's like behind the scenes tech reasons, but my guess would be they had to rebuild it from the ground up to incorporate mobile.
Yeah, I understand why I understand why they closed the service down and they're launching a new one, because look, it was.
You mean, why is it so similar?
Why they just not keep it Club Nintendo? Why do they name it this new thing?
I'm sure that's like one of those weird marketing, like kind of brand one of those brand things where it's like, oh, we need to like make it clear that this is a new era, and
maybe they're learning from the name of the Wii U, where people are like, oh, it's just a Wii, but now it's got a tablet.
And also, I'm sure it gets into like PR and marketing speak where it's like, oh, Club Nintendo sounds exclusive and keeping people out, whereas my Nintendo makes it yours, and it makes it part of an experience, and it makes it.
Well, we did that on Sifted, because if you look on the channel nav, like where it says My Sift, it was called like 10 different things before we finally settled on My Sift.
Club Sift.
It was called Your Sift was like the first thing it was, and I was like, no, if you say mine, it provides ownership, and it makes you feel like you own it a little more, and it's. We want people to realize the Sifted is customized to them, and we felt like My was better. But it's funny how one little word can change kind of how people perceive things.
Well, now you blew it.
Yeah.
Everybody sees what you're doing.
The gig's up. Yeah, the psychology
Don't appreciate
exposed.
your ruse, sir.
But it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I hope I don't have to create some new login. Like, it just seems stupid, because they went through this whole process of where people had to turn in all their coins before a deadline, and and the deadlines were staggered.
Well, then I turned in all my coins, and I had enough, and I got the Wii U version of Earthbound.
Oh,
because I've never played that.
Yeah.
And but then the code expired in July, and I don't have a Wii U, so I gave it away on Twitter, because I was like, well, I don't want this code to just go to waste, so I just gave it away to, or maybe it was on NeoGAF, but I just gave it away because I'm like, well, I can't use it, and I don't want it to go to waste. So, but I'm like, what was the point of that? It expired 2 months after I got it.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
The whole thing just doesn't make any sense to me. Look, I wouldn't say the whole thing. I mean, obviously them updating their service, but
starting completely over and making everybody do that thing. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason for it somewhere in there, but we'll never know on the back end. But
I can't really think of a reason why they would have to do that. Why couldn't they just hold your coins and all your points until they're ready to launch the new service, call it Club Nintendo again? Hey, maybe here's the new Club Nintendo.
Maybe the people in charge of building this were not in charge of Club Nintendo, and they're like, well, we don't want to keep with the system we don't like, so we're going to start over.
Maybe the code was just crap.
Could have been.
But again, that doesn't change the fact that they could have kept the same name and branding and all that. So
yeah. But I mean, if you want to get everybody to pay attention and do what they need to do and use their coins and get if you're ending all that, I guess it makes sense to kind of just shut it down and start again.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really matters that much, and I'm sure the main point is to make it a more transparent experience where you don't have to log into a clunky website and reload the page 4 times until it finally shows how many fucking coins you have, and and keep trying to remember which game you played, and I'm putting in all these codes from 3DS games, you've already used this code, or this code might be expired. I'm like, I don't remember when I bought this.
It was archaic.
Yeah,
definitely.
If it becomes a thing where it's a login that's universal across all the platforms, and as soon as I put in Xenoblade Chronicles, it registers that, and I get the points for having it, and I get the points for playing it, and I don't have to go back and sync all my purchases with the codes I put in on the website, and then by June I need this many to be a platinum member, so I get the club exclusive that's actually just a bunch of Mario cards that I don't want anyway. I still have a bunch of those club exclusives like sitting up on top of a shelf where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't care, but I also don't want to get rid of it because it's rare. I don't know. Maybe I should sell it to someone, but who wants it? I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, we're wonderfully trained as gamers to like get the rare thing, and like get the exclusive thing, and I'm like, great, I got it.
Then you have a closet full of
now I have it. It's like that's the problem. So I mean, I think I've gotten some good stuff out of Club Nintendo. I mean, they've every once in a while their platinum reward for the year is like, wow, that's really cool.
Well,
like,
their last couple platinum rewards were crap.
Last couple have not been too good, but like there was a period where they were giving out like Zelda statues and stuff, and it was really good. It felt like a real tangible reward.
They got cheap at the end.
Fan. Yeah, well,
I think the last one I got was like a Majora's Mask soundtrack or something.
It's been a hard few years.
It has, yeah.
But I like the soundtrack better than the big cardboard collection of like little like foldable Mario cube thing. I don't know what that was. That was, but I mean, I'm glad it's back. I'm glad something like it is back, and if it's easier to use, more power to it.
Unified accounts. I think we all agree. Thank God, finally.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yes, I think Nintendo's doing a lot of weird things and dumb things, but like, I don't want Nintendo to go away. I don't want anything bad to happen there. I don't want to see them like, because they're not going to sell their stuff out. It's like, you want to keep getting these series you love, Nintendo's got to figure their shit out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm hoping that, I hope the NX is good. Like, I just don't know what to think. I don't know what to expect, and I'm just like afraid we're going to get to E3 next year, and it's going to be like, what is that? Like, I'm afraid we're going to be sitting here like on that day while we're watching the live stream and just being like, I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know how.
But I've said that before with Nintendo stuff, and it ended up being okay. So I've learned over time to like not overreact to Nintendo's announcements.
Right.
It's probably the best way to put it.
Will they get in on the VR thing? Will they get, what's going on? What's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, it's exciting.
E3 is going to be a monster.
It really is.
It's going to be crazy.
Because you're going to have the other two consoles hitting their stride.
And it's going to be No Man's Sky coming out. I'm just like,
that week, you will
not be able to contain me.
Maybe we'll do the E3 hangouts in VR.
Oh, no one wants to see us. It's like we're in the room with you. That's what everybody wants.
All right, it's time to move on to the next topic of the Big Six. So, I was thinking today, Matt, I was thinking about the whole King thing, and I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't get why people are so enamored with Candy Crush Saga. I don't understand why my mom gets brought to a place where she'll spend money on it. And I was like, kind of a fun topic is games that I just don't get. And so I texted you, and I'm like, do you think you could come up with a couple games that you don't get? And I actually have dozens of games that I don't get. But I did call it down to 2. Matt, what is your first pick for games that you don't get?
My first one is Clash of Clans and its clones.
Okay.
Clash of Clones of Clans. I had never played Clash of Clans. Actually, what I ended up playing first before that was Plunder Pirates.
Okay.
Because my niece was playing it, and my brother-in-law, and they're like,
I've never even heard of that.
It's exactly like Clash of Clans, except it's pirates. That's it. Which I didn't know at the time.
What is Clash of Clans? A lot of people may not even play. I've never played it.
I mean, you've seen the ads.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone's seen the ads.
Yeah.
And the Plunder Pirates had a lot of ads too for a while. But like, what it is basically you get like a kingdom or whatever. There's a lot of games like this now. There's a Star Wars game like it. Everything. So you get a kind of like a fief, a little plot of land or whatever. And it's like like Farmville or your average. You build your home base, and then you build like a thing that creates resources. Then you build a thing that builds stuff. Then you build a thing that builds soldiers. Then you build a tech thing. Like a real-time strategy game, but everything takes like hours to build unless you spend real money to speed the timer up, because it's like all these games are like, okay, play for 2 minutes and now go away for 5 hours. It's
unless you want to give us $1.
Unless you want to give me $1. It's like, so you do that, and eventually once you build up like kind of a little army or whatever, you can go like raid other players' place. So like there's defensive structures you build too. Like,
so basically you set up a fortress and then people attack it.
Right. And you don't get to control what happens. You just get to watch it afterwards. And really,
you get to watch it live when they attack it?
No, you get to watch it after it happens.
So
you
it's
come back
all
it's all
asynchronous. And
And so, and actually, the people attacking usually don't actually get to control they get to control there's like what soldiers they drop into the battlefield, but it's not like an RTS where you get to pick where they go.
You don't tell this group of soldiers to go to this.
Yeah, you have pretty limited control over what they do, probably to make it more fair. Because if you had direct control, you could just go by. There's still people that do like a lot of glitchy kind of like strategies. Like I guess you use a certain combination of units and you'll just never lose, sort of thing.
Okay, I think we get it.
But you get it. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's made millions and millions, and Game of what was it? I think Game of War is pretty much the same.
Is it the same thing?
Very similar, and like I just don't get it. Like it's like it takes elements from games genres I like RTS and like city building and 4X and things like that, and it makes them really boring and annoying. Like it's just like
and not interactive.
No, it's like I said like. Before the show, I'm like, it's like 3 minutes of clicking things and gathering resources and building stuff, and then go away for a while. It's like a cigarette. It's like, smoke me for 3 minutes, and then okay, you're done. Go away. I've killed you a little bit, and you can come back in an hour and have some more, and I'm going to kill you a little bit more. And that's like what these games are to me, where I'm like, it's like I'm dying 3 minutes at a time doing nothing I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like it's like at the end, I'm like, you're going to add up all the little minutes I spent playing Plunder Pirates or Clash of Clans, and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do to myself? It's like I could have been playing anything else, but I'm playing this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I did play it for a while until I realized I just don't care, and I stopped.
Yeah.
And there's people that still play endlessly, and I know people are just
My brother-in-law plays it.
I mean, I get the
when
hook.
he sees me at the holidays, he every year he's like, "Do you play Clash of Clans?" I'm like, you asked me that last year.
Stop it.
I told you I would never play it last year.
I get the carrot on the stick thing. I get the but there's a certain point where those games to me, I'm just like, the stick is clearly right there. I mean, it's like it's
you know what I think
the stick is a mile out, and I can't even see the carrot, and I don't even understand what I'm trying to work towards.
I think it's a multiplayer game for people who can't play multiplayer games.
That could be.
I think it's a substitute for them. It's also like what a lot of people like. Either they feel guilty or they just frankly don't have the time to play real games. And so, this is a game where, if they have kids or whatever, it's hard to find time to sit down and play a game. So this is something where they can play. And actually, when I was getting footage for that King segment that we did, one of the things that the guy said that was the key to their success is like making sure that they built their game in a way that when someone has 30 seconds or 90 seconds or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, that they can play their game and have fun doing it. And that's what he said their secret sauce was. It's always thinking about the limited amounts. Like if you're watching TV and a commercial comes on, can you play our game while that commercial is on and get something out of it and enjoy it? And I think for games like Clash of Clans and for a lot of mobile games, that's like the aesthetic that they're designed around, is like those little 1 minute, 2 minute loops. Like how long does it take to set up your base before you can put it down and not touch it for a day or two?
About a commercial break.
Yeah. So I think that's the idea behind it. And look, for people like us, like I won't play games like that, but like my brother-in-law sure does. Like he keeps trying to get me to play the damn thing. So I agree with you. I don't get it either, but I can see where some people do. I guess.
I mean, there's a lot of games that I don't get in the sense that I don't want to play them.
Right.
MOBAs. Or like Team Fortress 2, but I can look.
I almost put Team Fortress 2 as one of mine.
But I can look at that and understand why someone spends their time doing that. I can appreciate that in terms of if I was a different kind of gamer, I get why that would be a very appealing, fun thing to do. But this stuff, there's nothing fun about this. It's like having another job to me. Gotta check in with the clans.
I think it's just a time filler.
I guess.
So people aren't bored.
My time filler is like Puzzle Quest ripoffs.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, Marvel Puzzle Quest, that new Ghostbusters match.
Which is a match 3 game.
Yeah, they're all match 3 games. Well, I like to think they're more complicated than Candy Crush, but not really.
Probably not. Puzzle Quest is a little more involved.
A little bit. I mean, I get to, wait hours for my characters to upgrade or whatever. So I guess that's just a different way to waste time.
Yeah. So
my real time waster game is a game that probably everyone would have on their game. The games they don't understand list, which is a proofreading game. It's called the grading game, and you read it's supposed to be papers from students, but it's actually Wikipedia articles they stole and put in the game. But they've got a certain number of errors in them, and you have to scroll through and click the errors, and it corrects them. And so, as someone with a degree in English, that's sort of I just remind myself of that's what I could have ended up doing if I'd gone the PhD route.
I have a journalism degree, and I have no interest in that at all.
It's oddly satisfying to see the misspelled, and there's a whole section. There's sections on subjects, and there's like 100 papers or whatever per subject, and there is a video game section, and like there's like long like Wikipedia article essays about like Ralph Baer and like and like the Atari 2600 and the Crash 84 and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is real interesting. Like that word character is misspelled. I mean, it's like it is the most boring imaginable thing to do to like, kill time.
And you're giving people crap for playing Clash of Clans.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, my first pick. We're both going to pick two. My first pick for games I don't get is Minecraft.
What?
I do not get Minecraft at all. And
we are so hipster today.
We are so old today, Matt. I don't get it at all. I remember when this game was, not even before it came out, it was about to come out. And I was working at Game Trailers at the time. And for whatever reason, all our video editors had latched onto this game. And it was like, I remember the website for Minecraft, like when it was just like being developed and everything, it looked like a GeoCities website. And like they would, I would come in to check.
Oh, it had like the flashing.
It was just awful.
You're right.
I would come in and like to check an edit for a review or an interview or whatever, and all our editors would be sitting there reading this green, ugly ass website. And I'm like, what is this? They're like, well, I already paid. And like, I'm like, you put your credit card into this crappy ass website, and they're like, oh yeah, it's legit, it's okay. I'm like, how do you don't know anything? And so this game took over GT, literally, for months. Like, 2 months before it came out, it had taken over GT, because people had gotten in and were, like, messing around with
early
it.
on, I think I got in at, like, beta, like, 0.8 or something. I mean, it was real early, and I'm like, oh, I got it. But I was like, oh, cool. But, like, yeah, people disappeared into that game.
I don't get it. Like, I just cannot get it. Look, kids who like Minecraft, that I get. Because when I was a kid, I loved building stuff. And all kids do. That's why Legos and Lincoln Logs and erector sets are the best things you can buy kids. One, it keeps them quiet. And two, it doesn't have a shelf life. You know, you can just keep building different stuff. Well, Lincoln Logs kind of do. You do get to a point with Lincoln Logs where you can build.
I think erector sets and Tinker Toys may have seen their day.
Yeah,
Lego, really never goes out of style.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just saying out of style. I'm just saying, like, it's something you can play with and do something different every time. It's not like, but Lincoln Logs, there was a finite number of buildings you could build with, like, whatever set you got.
Yeah.
But erector sets and
you can't make
Legos,
a log cabin Godzilla.
Right. Exactly. So I get the kids that play it, but look, I was around grown men who became completely obsessed with this game. And again, like, I can kind of understand it at first. It's like, it's cool. It was unique at the time. And it's like, oh, I can just snap all these blocks together and build my own video game levels. But after you get over that, like, initial, like, oh, that's kind of cool, like, I have no idea why people will continue playing this game. Like, building things, like, I loved it when I was a kid, but, like, at a certain age, like, I never like to use the phrase, get over it. But I did get over it. Like, at 8 or 9 years old, I didn't want to play with Lincoln Logs and Legos anymore.
I get it. I mean, I don't play Minecraft very seriously. I played it to a certain degree when it like first launched or whatever. But I haven't played it since they've added all the weird, the stuff where you can go fight the Ender Dragon and all that. They've made it a much more.
Well, they actually tried to make it into a game.
Kind of a game, yeah.
Because at first, that was what really turned me off. I was like, there's no objective to this. It's
but I remember,
other than surviving the night.
I thought that was a really cool twist, that you have to build a house fast to, like, survive them. I mean, and I remember that first time I finished a house in time, and I sat there with the door closed while the zombies and the creepers, like, came up to the door, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, it's like I felt like it was like I recaptured like the feeling I got when you built a fort when you were a kid.
Right.
And like you're just like, we're in a fort.
And your imagination is running wild.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it was like, I really enjoyed. I thought that was really cool. And that's pretty much as far
as I went. The first time, that was it. Like, that's the way I felt too. The first time, and then it failed.
Yeah.
Like, they busted through the door and killed me, and I never cared to try it again.
But like, I always remember the Penny Arcade strip that ran around the time that happened, and it was like Gabe saying, like, he comes up and he's like, okay, so I can punch the tree, and the tree gives me wood, and I can make sticks out of the wood, and I can make a block. oh, I'm in trouble. And it was like, you know, if you love like a crafting system thing, like if you love making things out of things and finding like, you know, and I really enjoyed learning. I didn't play it myself, but I loved learning later about how like, oh, if you dig down far enough, you find diamonds and you find all these special things. You make armor out of it. Like I get why people like were addicted to finding those configurations on the workbench and building those. You know, I get that. It's not for me. But like I understand it. I don't understand how someone our age has time to do all that. That's kind of the, you know, if I was like, you know, if I even like a teenager, if I was young and had time, I would be like, it's not to me that I don't like building things. I have 100 Star Wars Lego sets at home. I mean, I love doing that. But for me, it was like if I had a whole summer vacation to just do that. Like, oh yeah, that would be my life.
But see, I wouldn't. Even as a teenager, I would have looked at my time and been like, I don't want to burn like my whole summer playing Minecraft.
Well, once we hit a point where I was like, you know, dating girls, sure.
Well, I think the other part of it too is like your perspective on what you not even want or expect, but what just intrinsically you enjoy from games. Like, and I enjoy accomplishing things, and like. I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything playing Minecraft.
Well, first you accomplish paint a fence. Yeah. You know? Like there's some people love the craft side of things, and some people.
And look, I'm not begrudging anybody who likes it or whatever. Yeah. It's just I just don't get it. It's just not the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
The way I get rewardment from my games, I just don't get anything from it.
I'm a Minecraft tourist. I would say, like I've gone and logged on and like looked at like the full scale representation, like recreation of Westeros from Game of Thrones that someone set up, and looked around. I'm like, oh, this is amazing that someone made this. No, I have no.
Interest in doing it.
Yeah,
none.
No. But I'm like, I love seeing it. I love what people have done in it. I love the guy that made the full size Star Trek Enterprise replica out of Minecraft blocks. I'm like, I can't even imagine where you start, and like every room, every door, everything. It's like, wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
Too much time on your hands.
Yeah.
I just think about that person and what they could have accomplished, like, with their time doing something else. It's like...
You could have made an Enterprise out of real materials.
Yeah, you could have built a real ship that flew to the moon. All right, Matt, what's your second pick for games you don't get?
My second pick is probably going to be a little controversial, but it requires explanation. So my second pick is Smash Brothers.
Ooh.
But let me explain. I love Smash Brothers. I've been playing Smash Brothers since the first release. I imported the Japanese version so I could play it first, All-Star Dai Rento Smash Brothers. And so I shaved the sides of the cartridge off so it would fit in my American N64. The whole deal. But the thing I don't get is really the tournament style play for Smash Brothers, where like it's like you take all the to me it's the fun of it is the randomness and the items and all the craziness, but when you strip it down to like the tournament version, like to me it just becomes tedious to certainly to watch, somewhat to play. And I'm not going to say that like the guys who play this don't have skill, because you do. If you look at like a diagram, or like they have like running diagrams of like inputs, like what these players are doing, like the pro players are doing when they play. I mean, it's like 100 inputs, like
really
a minute
insane,
or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy, or a second. It's crazy. Like they are thinking 50 moves ahead, like as they come. But like to me, it just looks like two like sprites rolling around trying to throw each other off a ledge, and I'm just like, I don't care. And
you want full disclosure from me?
Sure.
I hate Smash Brothers.
What?
I have not played Smash Brothers for more than an hour or two since the N64 version.
Wow.
At GT, Brent, the guy who built Sifted, he had an office across the hall from us, and at lunch every day, 8 to 10 people would pile into his office, and he had a little GameCube set up in there, and they would play all lunch and yell and hoot and holler. I never once went in there and played. I do not like Smash Brothers at all.
Oof.
At all. I played the N64 version, not even that much. Like, I bought it, and I try to get people to come over, and they'd be like, let's play Tekken. Like, it is just, I don't know why. And look, I love Nintendo games. I love Nintendo's characters. I just have no interest in playing this game. I always felt like the controls were just janky, and like, I felt like I was playing like a battle platformer, which is what it really is, where the controls weren't as good as Mario 64. Like, that was kind of always my perspective on it. Like, and look, I've watched people play it, and I know they're really good, just like you were saying. Like, the professional players are like mind-blowing at what they do. I just have no interest in it whatsoever.
Same. And like, I hate that like because Smash Brothers is like an Evo now. It's created this like sort of rift between people who want to watch Smash Brothers and people who want to watch literally every other fighting game.
Yeah.
Instead, and like the stream chat just becomes like this horrible toxic soup of people like. And it gets into people like hating Nintendo in general and hating Nintendo fans, and Nintendo fans fight back on it, and it goes back and forth, and just the constant when's Marvels and like all that, and it's just there's no way to make those things coexist because I'm a big fighting game fan, and I also like Smash Brothers is a fighting game. Like I will not. I think the people that go on about how it's a party game. What the fuck does that mean?
No, it's a fighting game. Yeah,
it's a very different fighting game, but it is a fighting game.
Yeah,
it belongs at Evo. It should be at Evo because it's a fighting game, and that's what Evo's about. But like, it's so different in terms of format and what you're doing that like. And what you're doing, it's weird to watch if you're...
Well, the object, first of all, the whole thing
object's totally different.
Right, it's knocked someone off the platform.
And it takes forever.
It does,
and you can't... I get why you need a certain number of stock. You can't have it, happenstance happens, and you can't have someone who accidentally misses an input and falls off a ledge. Oh, sorry, your tournament dream is over. Because, it's like having, 2 out of 3 on a Street Fighter or something. You can't do that. But like it's just such a different viewing experience that I can't deal with it at a certain point. And as much as I enjoy that,
it's also hard to see because a lot of times the camera pulls way back and like the characters are really small. When you're watching streams, it can be hard to follow the characters, and it's hard to follow. Period. Because you have so much going on. Yeah. You have and
it's such an intricate game. It's such a game of what's happening between those two little characters and what. Different, there's so much stuff that happens between those two players that is entirely about what inputs they made and how they countered each other, and you might not even necessarily see it happen on screen.
Well, then there's all the X factors, like the items that just come into the...
Well, there's no items in tourney play.
Right. Yeah, they strip all that out. But I'm just saying generally, like playing Smash Brothers, like there's so many like variables in it that like it also feels kind of random, like who wins and like... I just never liked it, man. It has never, ever done anything for me.
I always had tons of fun playing
Never reviewed it either, by the way.
I reviewed Brawl, and I like Brawl a lot. I don't think it's as good as Melee, and I've never played the Wii U version.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a Wii U.
Yeah.
But when I do get a Wii U, that will be one of my first games I buy.
And I will not play it with you.
No, apparently not. Apparently I don't want to do that with you. But but like just in terms of like... things I don't get. I guess it's more of a permutation of a game I like that I don't get is that the tournament play of Smash Brothers, where it's just like,
and it is a phenomenon. It's like
it is a phenomenon. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. But I try to watch it, and I just inevitably drift away and go eat something until
I've tried to watch
until Marvel vs. Capcom comes on. I'm that guy. I'm sorry.
I like that too, though. Like I'll eat a sandwich and then turn it off and wait for like Street Fighter.
Yeah, and I don't want to be I don't want to be that hater. Yeah. I don't want to be him.
I don't hate on it. Like people that like it, I don't have anything against them. Like everyone likes.
But even I like it. But I'll get like super salty about it. It's like come on, finish. I don't want to watch this anymore. And it's just like it's just it bothers me that I can't get past that, and I can't like appreciate it for what it is. And like, but I think part of it is like it's so hard to see what's happening if you don't understand the intricacies of the game, and I absolutely don't. I like to play on random stage with all items on and final smashes on, and just everybody goes crazy. And I love blowing people up with landmines and super smashes, and I don't care. I don't care about the intricacies of it.
Yeah.
And when you like kind of reduce it to sort of like, yes, there's a really measured, intricate, skill-based game in there, and I don't fucking care about it at all.
There you have it.
It is a slam bang, like have fun when everybody's mildly buzzed, like drunk game to me, and I just don't care about watching it or playing it professionally, and that would be my pick.
All right, my final pick for games I don't get is Five Nights at Freddy's. Matt.
Sounds like someone didn't go to Showbiz Pizza enough when he was a kid.
Oh, I went to Showbiz Pizza plenty, and Chuck E. Cheese. Today, I was looking for footage of this game, like the trailers and whatnot to run during the show. And just like King, there was no trailer for this game that was longer than like 30 seconds. It was really hard to find footage of this game, but, not hard to find Let's Play footage of this game, I might add. And so I'm like watching a couple of these Let's Plays, and one, I don't get this game, and two, watching these Let's Play people act like they're scared just made me even more mad. Like, there was like, I've saw like 10 Let's Play videos of this game where it was so obvious that the person that was playing the game was acting like they were scared, and then you look at the view count and it's like 350,000, like 200,000 thumbs up.
They're not really
10
scared.
thumbs down. No, like, the world's gone crazy, Matt.
You really believe someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Yeah, just act like they were scared. So here's one thing about this game that I don't get is why would anybody be scared of a little animatronic toy that you could kick all the way across the room?
I don't know.
Do you know what the game is, Matt?
Yeah, it's like Night Trap pretty much. It's like you're watching the video monitors and like the animatronic monsters are trying to come get in your room, and if you don't look at the monitor long enough, like I own 3 of the 4 of them, and I've never played it.
You get them in a Humble Bundle or something?
Yeah, they are, and Humble Bundles or Steam bundles, Steam sale bundles and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think I paid more than like $1 for any of them, but like yeah, I've gotten a bunch of them. I've just never started them up because I just don't care. Here's a secret. Here's a secret about my gaming style. I don't think games are scary.
At all, like never.
Never. Not a single. A couple games that made me jump because the base hit.
That's all this is.
Yeah, it's all. This is all jump scares. Like the base hit of certain games. Resident Evil 2, the second disc, where like there's a point at which you leave like the briefing room of the police station, and then the tyrant like breaks through.
Yeah.
You just fought him, and every other time you fought him, it's been like 20 minutes since he showed up again, and then he pops right back out. And that one got me because I didn't expect it, and it was a jump scare. But in terms of games that like, oh, that's so scary, like, a video game is always going to give you the tools to get past any situation.
I thought the opening...
So I don't find it scary.
I thought the opening 4 or 5 hours of Resident Evil 4 were scary. I thought the atmosphere that they had, like the one guy, is his name Mendez, the bald guy with the beard. Like the first time he shows up in the cabin and like just picks Leon up by his neck and is just like...
Oh, like the Rasputin guy?
Yeah. That was scary to me, man. That scared the living crap out of me because that guy seemed so powerful and strong.
Oh,
like,
yeah, he was, but I knew.
And it wasn't cheap. It wasn't jump scary. They just had created this guy that to me was scary as shit.
But I knew by the time it
wanted no part of him.
By the time I had to fight him, I was going to have the equipment to do it. Like that's you're always going to get through it.
Well, how about like the Ganados outside, like the chainsaw Ganado, like when you really didn't have the weapons like to take him on, and like I had to run from his ass like across like rooftops, like that didn't scare you?
No. Because like I'm gonna get there.
You got a will of iron, my friend.
There are games I found. I found Silent Hill 2 unsettling. I mean, atmosphere. I can appreciate a really tense atmosphere, a really well crafted like tension.
I was legitimately scared in Resident Evil 4.
But like
the other Resident Evils, like they were mostly jump scares, like the dogs jumping through the window. Like that's cheap.
I would never describe Resident Evil 4 as scary.
Wow.
Ever.
Well, I think it's settled in to be more of an action game eventually.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just talking about the first 4 or 5 hours when you wander into the village. And the weird, creepy people are standing around with the pitchfork. Like, I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I thought it was scary.
I can see that, but I don't find things... It sounds like movies. I don't think movies are scary unless there's, like, the threat is, like, a real... I mean, I find, like, Zodiac, the Zodiac film to be way scarier than, like, Friday the 13th or whatever, because Zodiac happened.
Right.
Like, that's the scary thing. It was like, if you got monsters aren't scary to me.
But see, they were monsters. That's why I thought the opening of Resident Evil 4 was so scary. It's because they were just people. They were humanoid. They weren't zombies. They were just like these people who were kind of in a trance, and then this other dude who's like 7 feet tall.
Thing. There's
but that happened later, though.
Yeah, but like even when you go back again, when you know what's happening, you know why they are how they are. Like I think that's a really cool sequence. I think those are really awesome enemy designs.
Yeah.
And like once you kind of know what's behind them when you play it again, like it's got this really horrible Lovecraftian like otherness to them. Like that was already there, but once you know the story, that's the great thing about that is once you know the story behind the Ganados, like it doesn't ruin them.
Yeah,
it just makes them worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know? And like, so I appreciate that. But I think I wasn't scared. I was too busy being like, dude, this is awesome.
No,
like,
that scared me definitely. So anyway, let's go back to Five Nights at Freddy's, and it is the bane of what we were talking about. It's all about cheap jump scares where they just slam your subwoofer and like it's quiet, it's quiet, it's quiet. Boom!
Ah! Yeah,
it's like so cheap and like. There's no game. Look, I'm a big gameplay guy. There's really no gameplay in the games. Like, it's just the guy cranks them out like every 5. I mean, that's a testament to these games.
It was like 4 games in a year?
Yeah, dude, if you can make 4 of anything in a year, whatever you're making sucks. That's my opinion.
I make more than 4 steaks in a year, and they're pretty good.
Good point. Have 4 games in a year, your game sucks. That's my opinion. But I don't get it. These games sell like crazy. It's like a YouTube sensation. Like, it makes me even more angry that people like watching other people playing the game. Like, I just don't get it. And maybe it's just a whole part of the whole YouTube millennial thing that I don't get, but I don't get it.
I have no... And again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can get it. I can get why someone would do that, but it ain't for me.
It sure ain't for me.
It's like, I've watched some of the Let's Play stuff with you, Five Nights at Freddy's, and I just don't. Again, watching me watch it would not be a good live stream. Let's say that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a stone-faced old man staring at a screen like what?
Shaking his head. Yeah, I don't get it.
And it's like, you know what? I'm going to play a video game.
Yeah, I'm going to play a video game instead of watching someone else play it.
Although I really do need to play Five Nights at Freddy's just so I know what I'm talking about.
I think you know it well enough.
Yeah,
you described it just fine.
Yeah, but you know us. We have to touch it.
Yeah,
we have to push it around and see what it does.
I played one for 20, 30 minutes.
I bought 3 of them, so I should fuck.
That's the Humble Bundle in a nutshell, though.
How many hundreds of Steam games I think I have like 600 Steam games, and like I've played like 50 of them.
If you allow the fact that you have games that you're not playing to make you feel guilty, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to have games you'll never play now.
Well, sometimes I look at my Steam library list and I'm just like, there's some of these games are going to be unplayed when I die.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there's going to be like
depressing.
Yeah, and no one can ever have my account again. So it's they're just going to vanish.
I can't sell
into
my
the
account
ether.
before I'm about to croak.
Yeah.
My Steam account when I'm about to die is going to be worth a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
I should be able to sell that and like spend the last couple months in the Bahamas or something. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six. We're going to talk now about Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I should preface this by mentioning the stipulations that I'm under right now, Matt.
All right.
So, I have to say, every time you get a game for review, and we've talked about this on the show before about how it's changed over the last 5 years. It used to be they just be like, here's your embargo for when you can put the review up.
Unless they were Capcom, in which it came with a 14-page explanation of how each scene needed to be presented and what date.
Well, they called it like a review guide. That's what they call those. So now when you get code for a game, there's a sheet that's the old sheet that we used to get for decades that we've worked in this industry. And then there's this other sheet. And this other sheet is for like the new games journalism that basically tells you like when and how you can stream and what you can do with it and what you can say. And so the sheet for Rise of the Tomb Raider is one of the most convoluted, insane things I have ever seen. It's like, well, you can stream for 2 hours, but you can't show any cutscenes. And, yeah. So I'm looking at this, and like today was the day that you're allowed to stream. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I want to do a hangout for this. I started looking at it, and like basically what you would have to have done is played through the game, and then look for the very specific places where they told you you're allowed to show it, and then save. And there's only 3 save slots total. And obviously there's one I'm taking up just for my review as I'm playing through the game. It leaves you two other save slots basically to do. So it would have taken me I would have had to play through the game the same sections of the game 3 times to create the saves so that when I start the Sifted Hangout, it's starting right where I'm allowed to show it. And then in the midst of that stream, I would have had to cut out the video feed while the cutscene showed and then bring it back. And so at the end of the day, I just didn't have the time, nor in all honesty the motivation to do any of that. And so today, everybody put up, most people did. Most people didn't even live stream it. They just did pre-made gameplays. And so basically everybody's going to put up the same stuff from Rise of the Tomb Raider, which to me invalidated any value of me doing a hangout because everyone else was going to put up the same shit and I wouldn't have to do any of the work, and I could just curate it, which is exactly what I did today. So right now on Sifted, there's basically the same gameplays that I would have shown you in a hangout. So if you want to watch it, go ahead. So I mentioned all this to preface that I can't talk about a lot of stuff about the game, obviously. I'm still under an NDA embargo for reviews, but what I can talk about is any of the stuff that was included in the sections of the game that we were allowed to show. So I can't talk about any of the cutscenes. I can talk about the setup of the story, and I can talk about most of the gameplay. I guess is what I can do. So,
Miss Croft is not a cheap date.
No, no. So, looking at the graphic on the screen, she's crafty. The first thing I will say is that the crafting in this game has gone way beyond the last game. Like, way beyond. You have like a eagle vision or whatever you want to call it. Every game's got like the button you press that helps you see things that you can't normally see. So this game has that. And when you click that thumbstick, it's the right thumbstick that you click down, there are just things everywhere to loot, to just break down, like trees. Like you have to walk up to trees and you like give them a couple karate chops and break them down into wood, and then you have wood to craft with.
Minecraft.
Yeah, good one. And you gather herbs and you gather mushrooms to tip your arrows with to make them It's insane the level of crafting and looting that you do in this game. Like the last game had it. This game has like doubled down on it.
Yeah, the last one had it in a way like Far Cry has it.
Right. This game has doubled down on it. Like there's 3 different disciplines that you can like level up Lara in. Some of them, just to show you how intense the crafting is in this game, some of the things you level up just allows her to loot enemies as soon as you kill them without having to like separately like loot them. Like that's how intense and how interwoven into the game it is. So crafting is a big part of it. The other thing I would say is that if you've watched trailers for this game, or maybe you've cut yourself off from watching trailers from this game, don't worry about it, because all the trailers really show the first like hour and a half of the game. Like I was blown away because I was like, oh, I've watched all these trailers, it's probably ruined everything. No, like they've been really good about just using the very opening sequences to show off this game in trailers so far. So that's one thing I would say is don't put yourself on a media blackout for this. Like everything you're seeing in these trailers, you're going to experience in the first couple hours playing the game. So that was another thing that struck me. Yeah. The other thing that struck me is it's a Tomb Raider game, Matt.
What?
It is a Tomb Raider game.
You raided some tombs?
I've raided many, many tombs. I'm about 8 or 9 hours into the game at this point, and it is legit Tomb Raider. Like, I will say they have done an about-face, and there is tons of platforming in the game. There is tons of environmental puzzle solving. You fight a lot of wild animals like you did in like the mix. They have nailed it. Like it feels like Tomb Raider through and through. Like whereas the last game I was like, oh, this kind of feels like Uncharted or like some random action adventure game. Like they have really found the sweet spot for this as far as the mix of gameplay styles and the puzzles, and like the puzzles are, some of them are pretty clever, like the environmental tomb raiding puzzles, and I'm having a good time with it. The story, I mean, they've put this out in all the trailers already, but basically the setup for the story is you're trying to, I won't say avenge your father, but you're trying to legitimize your father's passions, I guess is the best way. He was on the hunt for something before he passed away, and you kind of continue that hunt and try to basically solve the puzzle he was trying to solve before he passed away. So that's kind of the setup for the story. The game is still burly. Like, I don't know if you remember the last game. There was like all these really
stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's like this now. This game's like that too. Like there was one time where I fell into a pit with spikes, and like literally like a spike went through her neck and like out the back of her neck, and then there was like 2 in her leg, like jamming up through her leg. Like it still has like that real like
the famous river.
Yeah.
From the first, where she just impaled on the trees.
Yeah. It has tons of stuff like that. It's still brutal. I haven't come across any weird, like, funky rape scenes or anything like that, like the first one.
That's good improvement. Okay. I don't mind, we talked about Resident Evil 4 before. It's like I don't mind like some really nasty death scenes for my protagonist if I screw it up,
Yeah.
Like, and Dead Space did that too. I was like, oh, like, I mean, you're punished for dying, but you're also a little bit rewarded for dying.
Yeah.
Although I think watching a zombie chainsaw my guy in half is a little less disturbing than watching Lara squirm on a tree branch for a few. That goes on a little long sometimes.
Well, I mean, there's the famous like rape scene from the first game too that was very unsettling.
Yeah, I don't think you really need that scene to it's supposed to be like, oh, this is what prompts her to like kill her first human.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't really think I
think somebody else trying to kill her is good enough.
Yeah,
reason.
it's like no one had to try to rape Nathan Drake to get him to kill someone the first time. I think I think there's a little bit of double standard happening there, but like that's good. That's good to hear that they've moved away from that kind of sexual threat idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a huge supernatural angle to this game.
Well, I mean, yeah, Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Gotta have the first one, like within the first 10 minutes, you're fighting a T-Rex. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
all right, weird stuff's going on. I get
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, a T-Rex is one thing. A T-Rex actually existed.
Right.
It was at least
But the, like the first game, or the first,
reboot.
what do you even call it? Yeah, the last game, previous game, you ran into like the giant, like, ghost monster zombie samurai warriors or whatever
Right.
near the end, and like there was magic exists in Tomb Raider. We know this.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in this as well, which again, it's a part of Tomb Raider that
Does it fit? Probably, because one of the things, like that kind of element is also in Uncharted, but it's kind of famously like
It doesn't fit in
breaks,
Uncharted.
It breaks the combat usually. It's like
here it does. It totally does.
does fit.
Yeah, I mean the whole story has like a super. I don't want to spoil anything,
Right.
but the whole story has like a supernatural angle to it. Like
Okay.
it's not like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I guess is a good way to put it. There's an object that everybody's trying to get, and that way it's a lot like Uncharted.
Yeah.
But there's this like relic / artifact that everyone's trying to get, and it's like the race is on to get it. And there's some people who want to use it for bad, and there's some people who want to use it for good, and that's kind of the whole.
It's a MacGuffin.
story. Yeah,
Magic MacGuffin.
yeah. Visually, the game, I mean, you can see it in the trailer. It's amazing. Like it's.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the best looking Xbox One game, but it's pretty close. It's the best looking hair I've ever seen on the Xbox One. I'll say that much. They did a really good job with the hair, which is something that's traditionally really hard to do in games. I'm enjoying it a lot so far. The game eval will be going up. I believe the embargo breaks Sunday or Monday night at midnight. It's one of the.
And is that next week? It's the same
yeah,
day as
yeah.
Fallout.
It comes out the same day as Fallout. And the embargo for both reviews are like within like 6 hours of each other or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
No pressure.
So I need to finish this one off real quick. Like I said, I'm like 9 hours in. If it's the same length as the last one, I've got about 5 hours left around there. So hopefully I can maybe finish that off tonight and get cranking on Fallout. But then Fallout's weird because Fallout 3, you can technically finish it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then you're not really playing
You
Fallout.
haven't really experienced it.
Yeah. So I know I'll be able to get through that game quick as far as like making it through the whole campaign and seeing the whole story and everything. But what I really want to do is spend a ton of time just digging
In the
into
world.
it. Yeah, because that's really what Fallout is. So.
In the world, building your own towns,
Yeah.
hanging out with the dog.
So not much sleep for me because not only do I have to play these games, I still have to write the evals for them.
No
so,
sleep till post-apocalyptic Brooklyn.
pretty much. Yeah. So far what I've played of Tomb Raider, thumbs up. It might have been worth just to want to hang out with everybody and
good to
answer
hear.
some questions and stuff like that. But what I've experienced so far, no cause for alarm, I guess is the best way to put it. Yep. All right, so let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six, and this is a game that came out just today. It's called Need for Speed. Matt,
How many of these games have just been called Need for Speed?
without any subtitle?
With no subtitle. Like at least 3, I think.
I think it's just 2.
The 2?
Yeah.
This is the first
This
Need
is
for-
like the first reboot or whatever.
I guess technically the first one was Road and Track Presents.
Right.
Need
Yeah,
for
you're right.
Speed.
That's what it was.
Played that one on the 3DO.
Yeah. We were just talking about before we started recording the show, we were talking about what our favorite Need for Speeds were, and we realized that our favorite Need for Speed is now 17 years old.
Yeah, my favorite Need for Speed is definitely, for me, it's certainly Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, the original.
Yeah.
From, I think, 98.
Yeah.
Something
We
like
actually
that.
agree that is the best Need for Speed, although I would
Yeah.
say, for me personally, a close second is Need for Speed Underground. So.
But I really miss the point-to-point, really heavily designed, sort of fantasy-ish, like Atlantica in the original Hot Pursuit was really weird and sci-fi and kind of fantasy, and I really enjoyed those old tracks. I think the open world design, while I enjoy the open world Need for Speeds, I really miss the old style with very carefully designed tracks.
Yeah.
I played Hot Pursuit and Porsche Unleashed on the PC for a very, very, very long time, like over a year, especially with the user mods on it and everything. And I miss them. I miss those old games, and I feel like these games, Well, why don't you talk about the new one and how it's treating you?
What I'm going to say is that this one isn't going to make you feel any better. Look, I'll look, just full disclosure, I've only played the game probably 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and I don't want to play it anymore. So I'm not evaluating the game. I'm not writing the game eval. That is being handled by a freelancer, and I wish him luck. And I haven't told him how I feel about the game. I'm just going to leave him pure so he can come up with his own opinion on it. But one thing I will say is last night the reviews started coming out. There was one review that broke embargo like a couple days ago. Like Ars Technica just published its review like out of nowhere. And the crazy part was it was never taken down. Like usually those pop up and like I curate it real quick. I'm like, oh, sifters would probably want to see this embargo broken review. You ain't never made him take it down.
Well, in the spirit of this series, I guess fuck the police.
The more surprising part was that then other publications weren't like, well, then screw you, we're putting ours up too. Like,
right.
Usually that's what happens.
Yeah.
And in this case, they didn't. They all waited for embargo, which was midnight last night.
Which should tell you something about
typically tell you something. If you can't put the review up until the game's officially for sale, that's always a red flag. And I think most people who use Sifted probably know that by now. But so here's the other part of it. I cannot believe some of the review scores this game is getting. Like, I cannot believe it. The first thing is, the game is always online. So the Xbox One nightmare has come true. Like, it is the perfect example of why it was such a terrible idea. Because I had races not save. I had, like, weird glitches happen where because it's connected online, like cutscenes were supposed to play that like didn't play, or they would start like halfway into the cutscene. You can't pause the game. There's no pausing.
Oh.
Because it's always online. So if like you have like an itch or like your wife walks in the room and is like, yo dude, like I need to talk to you, stop playing the video, you can't stop, or you just fail a race. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with this game, Matt. Like, the FMV in this game, the live action stuff is so bad. Like, I cannot believe anybody ever watched these and was like, yeah, we made the right decision on that one. Like, I'm sure they were in a place where they're like, well, we already spent the money, and this is what the production company gave us, so we're going to use it. It's too late.
That's almost a hallmark of this series at this point, between like this and the Run, and even like the old like Underground and like street stuff, where it was like, is this? Am I supposed to believe any of this? Like, it's so. Like, at a certain point in this series, I just got tired of everyone telling me how awesome I was. It's this weird sort of like you're trying to cash in on the Fast and the Furious idea, but like. You're also trying to cast me as like the most badass ruler of the city street racer guy, and like it's all comes off so artificial, and the performances are so weird and disjointed.
It's so bad in this game.
And you wonder like what, like is it intentional? Like is it parody?
These aren't even so bad that they're good. Like I'm just embarrassed for like the people who are acting in them. Like they're just so hokey and corny and overacted and just it's so bad. Like, it is so bad.
And not so bad like the Power Glove.
No. I said, it's not so bad that it's good. It's just bad. Like, the game itself, like, the one thing I do like about it is it has gone back to where it gives you the same level of customization that you had in the Underground series. And look, it's all, like, over the top, like, crazy whale fins and, rims and decals and stuff like that, but I did enjoy that in the Underground games, and I enjoy it here. The handling model is forgiving. I mean, it's really a casual driving game. Yeah. Like it's
they always have been, with the exception of those like I can't remember the name of the ones that were like more sim attempts.
Yeah, well, the cops in this are like an afterthought. Like, they never even come after you. Like, I mean, parts of the game are just broken, to be honest with you.
It's weird to me how often they, like, start over with this series. Like, I feel like if they would just, like, keep iterating on one particular take on this thing, like, they'd eventually end up with something really good, but they seem to constantly stop and start.
Well, they shuffle it around to developers, too. Yeah. It's like they can never stick with, like, one team to keep making it.
And it's hit the point where, like, I'm, as an old school Need for Speed fan, like, there's a lot of more recent ones I really like. I like the first Criterion one a lot, Hot Pursuit. I liked a lot of the mid-range ones, in the GameCube era with Underground and those games. But like, it's kind of the point where I just don't know what I'm gonna get when I buy one now. It's I like the police chases, but like, apparently I'd be disappointed if I bought this one.
Yeah, the police chases are pretty much non-existent in this game.
Well, then, like, it's weird to me that like you can't depend on some of these what I think would be considered basic elements of this series. Like, they're not always there. They're not always customization, not always there. Yeah. Sometimes you can just pick the standard model of the car and you can't touch it anymore.
It's a pretty game, other than the fact that it's always at night. Like, you never race during the day. It's really weird. Like, that's as light as it gets out, pretty much, what you're just seeing right there. Like, it's a bare... I guess the best way to put it is it's a bare bones racing game. It feels like this team had like a year and a half to make the game. It just doesn't feel full-featured. It doesn't feel like the 15th or 16th iteration of a series, that's for sure. I was really disappointed in it. And then to see some of the scores that it's getting. Like,
is it getting high scores?
I mean, the scores have kind of been all over the place, but I've yet to see a score as low as I think it deserves. I guess is the best way to put it. I've seen some like 8s and 9s, which is, to me, is just preposterous for this game. Like, we were talking about before you went on. I
can't remember the last Need for Speed I would have rated that.
Yeah. Well,
I can, but I was in college.
Right, exactly. Like, we were talking before we went on air, and I was talking about how last week on the show we said that, Forza had kind of replaced Gran Turismo as the racing sim of choice. And you know what? Now I feel like Forza Horizon has kind of replaced Need for Speed.
Horizon does
as the
do
arcade,
it real well.
Like, driving game of choice.
It does. It does not replace Need for Speed for me in the sense that like the police chases are what I like the best.
But like I said, they're like non-existent in this game. So.
And Horizon does that thing where it keeps telling me how cool I am, and I don't like that. I don't know why I don't like that. I just don't believe them.
Yeah, I'm not that cool.
I know I'm not that cool. If I was really here in this car, no one would think I was that great. I'm sorry. Like, people
don't patronize me.
No, people would come up to the car and they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's a nice car. Oh my God, who's driving it?" Like, it would be like, "Oh yeah, no, there's no party tonight." It's like that would be my Forza Horizon experience. But the balloons, and it's like, no, it's that way. Go back to the boat. Get back on the boat.
And the bro is really strong in this game. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like the whole like street racing scene thing, and the bro and the daps and all that stuff.
And it really looks like, just from looking at the B-roll, it looks like this is one of those Phil Bars games.
Yeah.
It's like, you get style points, and then you get like experience points, and then you get money points, and then
you finish a race, and it's just like this cavalcade of meters going off. Yeah, it's totally that way.
Yeah, it's like, and it's just that kind of constant. I think, what was it? The Crew was like that too.
Actually, you know what? This game reminds me a lot of The Crew.
That's
actually a really good analogy. These two games are very similar.
Wow.
Yeah. And the quality level as well. They're pretty much...
That's not a very nice
The Crew still survives. They're reworking The Crew right
true.
Now. Somehow Ubisoft has managed to...
And The Crew also falls in the slot of, like, I really like that idea for a game. I really think that's a cool idea, and I don't think they got there.
I just don't know why they made this game, to be honest with you. Like I get it. Like, I'm a Need for Speed fan. You're a Need for Speed fan. I get why they should make a Need for Speed game. I just don't know why this one was released in the state it's in. It is like a bare bones. It's it's half the game the last Need for Speed was, and the last Need for Speed wasn't great. So
yeah. Well, I have two questions really. I guess. A, do you think it's better or worse than The Run, which is the cutscene heavy, like, story driven game from a few years ago?
It's a little better than that.
Okay. And
that game was bottom of the barrel, though.
No question.
Keep in mind. For anyone who's watching this that doesn't know The Run was terrible.
Yeah, something that's worse than The Run would be... a Need for Speed game worse than The Run would be like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, we need to have an article.
No, it's a little better.
And second question, where the hell's Burnout?
Yeah. Don't know. Being protected. Well, I guess Criterion... Who owns the IP? Does EA own it?
EA owns Burnout, I'm sure.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but why? Well, I mean, I know they're fairly similar in some, in terms of, when you look at the box cover, I guess they're pretty similar, but they're not similar. Yeah.
There was a point in time where the Need for Speed franchise was selling almost 8 million copies a year. it was one of EA's biggest franchises. And I'm sure it's just all numbers. They just look at how did Burnout sell? How did Need for Speed sell? And with that pedigree of Need for Speed...
Well, at this point, it's like, how do you know what Burnout would sell now? Try it again.
You don't, yeah. But look, when you're placing big bets on games, it's all about crunching numbers. And...
Just call it Need for Speed Burnout.
Yeah, you're right. There you go. We all win.
Boom. The people that like Need for Speed, that just brainlessly buy Need for Speed, like they're in. Yeah. And the people that love Burnout, they get that secret code. Yeah. They know what you're saying. Yeah. And like we can all come together.
Yeah. So right
and
now
we can bring back crash mode for God's sake.
Exactly. And right now, we're just seeing like what the best part of the game is, which is the customization. It is pretty impressive what you can do with
They
the
are
cars.
pretty car models. They do look really good.
And the game's pretty. Yeah, I mean, they have an engine here. Like, the engine's nailed. I mean, as far as like the driving is concerned, it's good.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like, stick with it. Like, keep going. Like, give these guys
This game should have had another year in
Probably.
the cooker. Is pretty much what it comes down to. Because they do have a decent foundation to make a good racing game. This just isn't it.
I wish they'd give the series time to mature. Like I feel like so many of the Need for Speed entries in recent years have been like, oh, this is pretty cool. If you give it another iteration, I bet it'll be great. And it just never gets that other iteration. Like the one time maybe was like when Criterion made Hot Pursuit, and then they got to make Most Wanted like 2 years later. And like Most Wanted turned out pretty well. I mean, it wasn't exactly.
Well, there was Need for Speed Carbon in there somewhere.
Yeah, Carbon was between because like
it's so hard to keep track.
Has
of all the
has
games.
to come out every year, So Criterion did Hot Pursuit, and then like another one came out in there somewhere, and then Criterion's second one came out, and it was good. Those are two probably the shining spots of the recent Need for Speeds.
I could
what
never put all the Need for Speed games in order they came out.
Oh no!
If you gave me all the titles.
That would be, if there was like a game show for nerds, that would be the worst like Final Jeopardy thing. That would be like a Price is Right kind of game thing. Oh, like you'd never give away a prize ever if you did that. That would be amazing.
All right, let's move on to the last topic of the Big Six. The bottom line with Need for Speed is, like, don't buy it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you might want to wait for our game eval, but I'm just telling you, as somebody who's played a lot of games for a long time, I do not recommend that you buy this game. And the reason I'm saying this is because there are reviews out there that may lead you to believe that you should buy this game. And I guess I'm telling you that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's good.
But also, like,
but
I don't know. There's also like, for people who are fans of that kind of game and of Need for Speed in specifically, like, there's that temptation to believe that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I've bought a couple Need for Speeds I probably shouldn't have bought.
Yeah, so have I.
Because I really want them to be good.
I would tell you to pass. So that's just a skinny from Shane Satterfield. All right, so the last topic of the Big Six for this week was spurred on today by Activision's financial report. So obviously Activision Blizzard merged together a long time ago. They're the same company, so they report all their stuff together. So today they reported that once again the user base for World of Warcraft had fallen as far as monthly subscribers are concerned. It fell to 5.5 million. It actually had only fallen not that much. It's kind of stabilized. It had fallen, I think, 100K from the last quarterly report or something like that, which isn't terrible.
No, that's a pretty slow bleed.
So it seems like they've kind of leveled out, and they aren't getting these huge like downward spikes there. But one thing they did say is that going forward, they will never report the number of subscribers they have at World of Warcraft ever again.
Wow.
I don't know why today, all of a sudden, after doing it for years and years...
There's never going to be any more good news, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe that is what it is. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, there really aren't that many MMORPGs left that you pay a monthly fee for. And I was like, I was sitting there and I was trying to think, and I was like, I had to do like a ton of research to like dig up what they were. And so I started thinking to myself, well, maybe this is going away. Maybe there aren't going to be MMORPGs anymore that you have to pay a monthly fee for. And so, first of all, you have Destiny. That's a game where you paid once.
Yeah.
And
a little bit later.
Well.
And expansions.
Technically, you don't have to. I mean, you can just pay the one fee, and even if you buy the expansions, like, look, you buy the expansions for World of Warcraft, you're still paying a monthly fee.
Yeah.
So it's a different model. You pay and you're done. And if you don't want to buy another model or another expansion, you can just keep playing that old one if you want to. So Destiny is like, they just said that they have added 5 million new players in the last 3 months. So the Taken King has been like a huge boom. They are at 25 million registered users for Destiny now. After adding 5 million in the last 3 months. So Destiny, obviously, is a game that shows that you don't really need the monthly model to be a success.
More than double World of Warcraft's maximum.
Yep, exactly. That's huge. And so you get $60 from each one of those people, and then you talk about the expansions and like the upsell after you've bought that initial package. That's a successful revenue model right there. So there's one game that's kind of shown that it can be done. And then another one we have is obviously, well, actually, the game that I just got turned on to in the last couple of months is called Black Desert Online. And look, you know, Matt, that I don't give a crap about MMORPGs, like at all. Mm-hmm. And I never have. I tried World of Warcraft. I tried Elder Scrolls Online. I tried Lord of the Rings Online. All these, every time that someone's like, oh, this is the one's different. And this is the one that you're going to like, Shane, because the combat's good. Like, they all suck.
Combat's never good.
It's never good. But this game, it looks like the combat is good. It's like, it looks almost like a platinum game. And hopefully this trailer gets to the place where there's some combat. But it's like really fast, high action. Like I said, it looks like a platinum game. Like reflex like based combat. Mm-hmm. And the other part about this game, Black Desert Online, is that you pay a one-time fee. And then that's it. There's no monthly charge. You pay for the game. And once you pay for the game, you're all done. And so this is like a new MMORPG that was just really announced, and they've kind of gone for that one-time fee model. And so let's talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic, which has kind of got this hybrid model, where there still is a monthly fee, but you're paying that monthly fee to like speed stuff up, right?
Pretty much. And you, once you stop subscribing, if you have already subscribed, you become like a preferred member or something. So like you keep all the expansions and stuff that the subscription gave you access to, but you lose a lot of the speed up bonuses and like things like that. And then you can like pay to like add those things onto your account, even if you're a free member. But like, I gotta admit, I've put about 40 hours into Old Republic in the last month or 3 weeks or so because of the new expansion and all the changes, and they have made that game is a different game than it was 4 years ago.
That game almost failed. It almost died.
Yeah.
And they did like a big pivot, and they changed the revenue model for it. They also they made it a lot easier to like level up.
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, I played it at launch, from launch, and I think it took me 26 days to get to 50. And I leveled 2 characters to 60 in 2 weeks this month, in October.
So it's much more user-friendly now.
Much more user-friendly. You've streamlined everything. You really only need to play the character's class story and some of the planet stories to max out by the end of all the content. 90% of the game can be played solo. Even the group instances have solo versions now that you can just see the story, basically, to get through them. The companions in the new update, like they can... All companions in your crew can fill any role, like DPS, tank, or heal, and they are super powered. Like they are, like they're proud. I would be surprised if they didn't get nerfed later. People think they're going to get nerfed, but I think they might actually be working as intended because they can power you through any part of the game, basically up into the new content.
So how do you feel about the revenue model? 'Cause that's what we're talking about here. That's what the topic is.
I am still subscribing to that game, actually. And I've built up a bunch of cartel coins, and so whenever I go back and play it, maybe a couple times a year, I use the cartel coins to buy some new cool gear and buff it up with enhancements from the Imperial Fleet or whatever, and get out there and have fun and look cool doing it. I think it's a functional model. I stick to the subscription side because A, I'm stupid and I forget to cancel it, and B, I like that.
You make a lot of money that way.
Yeah, I like that game a lot, and I'm happy to support it, basically. And I'll come back to it periodically. And now the new expansion is like straight up KOTOR. It's story driven, BioWare story. It's one of their best stories in a long time, and so like I'm glad it's around. I hope it stays around with that content model for like a few more years because I would play a lot more of that.
And you're okay with the revenue model the way it works now?
I think so. I mean, I've never been a free subscriber to that game, like a free player to that game, so I don't know. As I understand it, it's pretty limiting if you've never subscribed. Like, you're really locked out of a lot of stuff, and I think, like, your experience like drops at a certain point if you're not a subscriber, where subscribers stay at the same rate, basically. I think I heard someone, I saw people talking about it basically in the game, and I think they said like around level 20, like the experience is less for free players, so the grind is a little harder. But again, they've eliminated tons of grind from that game. It's almost gone now, and so if I were going to play it with an eye to the new expansion, I would just like subscribe for 1 month to get access to all the subscriber perks,
and
then bail out, and then like resubscribe whenever I decided to play it again.
Isn't it janky that you have to do that though? So I started trying to find any MMOs that actually still follow that old model, like World of Warcraft, and one of the few ones that I could dig up was the Elder Scrolls Online, and that's a fairly recent MMORPG, and it actually does follow that old style of like you pay every month. And you got to keep paying to play, basically.
Yeah, I wonder if there's enough Elder Scrolls fans to like sustain something like that, because one of the reasons I am so into the Old Republic thing is I'm a huge Star Wars fan and I want to be part of that kind of online world and do that stuff. But I don't have that kind of attachment to Elder Scrolls, so it would never occur to me to subscribe to that.
Yeah.
No matter how good. And again, I like Old Republic a lot, but the combat is still pretty much just World of Warcraft again with a little more interactivity. I'm waiting for, like you say, the skill-based MMO combat system. Like when I can at least fight like Zelda, like then I'll be much more involved in that. Because that's the thing is
big benchmark for me would be like counters.
Yeah.
Does the combat have like a counter move?
Old Republic does.
Does it?
There are certain moves that will activate if you have a counter window, and as long as you press the button before the timer runs out, you get an extra hit in there. But again, like that's not the same thing as what we're talking about in terms of like a platinum game that just has a lot of players in it.
Yeah.
And there was a game that was like that a little bit, that had kind of like a real-time, like kind of hack and slash combo system. And I can't remember what it was. It was a Korean game, I think, and everybody looked very anime. They were very big characters. I can't remember what it was called. I think it started with a V.
Was it Wakfu or something?
No, it was even older. It was like very dark fantasy, but everybody still looked like they were straight out of like Sailor Moon kind of thing.
Not Lineage.
No, it wasn't Lineage. It was it wasn't Vanguard or Vandred or it was. See, here's part of the problem.
An MMORPG name generator.
Yeah, I don't. But I'm sure someone in the chat knows what I'm talking about. But it was free to play. And it was surprisingly robust for the time. It was years and years ago it started. I can't remember what it was called. I never reinstalled it when I built my new PC this year, so I probably will never find it again unless someone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think no one in the chat has mentioned it, so I don't think anyone knows.
No, there's a delay. We'll see. If you know what this is, if someone figures out what this is, go ahead and post it in the comments maybe. Someone out there knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it had a very like action-oriented like hack and slash system, and I enjoyed it for what it was. But apparently not enough to remember what it was called.
So let's get back to it. So there's a couple other games. There's Final Fantasy XIV. It's still doing a monthly subscription.
Yeah. Another big another big reinvention that worked.
Yeah, another one that was another MMORPG that was failing, and it did an about face. Although they didn't really change their revenue system.
No, they just changed content and how it was kind of given to you and what it was.
Yeah, which is surprising that it turned it around like that much. Because usually once people leave an MMORPG, even though this one has the Final Fantasy name on it, a lot of times people are just like, I'm out of here and I'm not coming back.
Well, I have a friend of mine, a friend of ours, Mike Benson, who played. He used to be on X-Play and a bunch of stuff, and he loves Final Fantasy XIV. And once they did the relaunch, he was played it on PlayStation 4, and I would see him on there all the time. I mean, every night without fail.
Isn't that an MMORPG in a nutshell, though?
Yeah, but like the thing, I'm wondering if there's anything to this. I wonder if this is a thing in like MMO marketing or revenue streams where like he would tell me like, "Oh, it's so good now. It's great. I love it. It's you should try it." And I'm like, yeah, no. Like even me, I'll play like anything, and I played a lot of MMOs. I have a thing about playing like MMOs. I'm interested in the level cap. I played a lot of the Secret World, which nobody plays.
Yeah.
Just because I like the setting, and like I wouldn't try it. I wouldn't because the barrier of entry was like, well, I got to buy like a $50 game, Or I guess you can do like kind of a free thing with a subscription or not, but like I'm like, well, the free version's just gonna make me like a second-class citizen, so I don't want to do it. Like it was weird how like psychologically I couldn't get past the idea that I was gonna get boned by not paying for this.
But that's what I'm saying. Is this whole revenue model done for?
Seems like it.
I mean, it really does. Like there's so many free-to-play options out there now, or just great MMORPGs that you can pay for one time and you're done.
Yeah.
Like
Secret World is like that. Secret World is pay for it once and you're in forever.
yeah, like and look, Blizzard has just been milking that. I mean, it still is. You know, we say, 5.5 million. 5.5 million every month you get say 15 or 16 bucks from those people. The next closest MMORPG, I believe, only has 1 million subscribers a month. So
I remember way back when it launched or whatever. I remember like when everyone was worried about SWTOR like collapsing, there was something about like
Vindictus is what people were saying.
That's what it was. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was the first one who came up with that was Rudy, Rudyse.
Nice.
Rudyse, I think.
Rudy S.
I have no idea how you pronounce it.
Well, yes, that was it. Vindictus.
Yeah.
Was like it was something like they wanted like I'm sure they would have liked WoW numbers, but I think like the break even was like 500,000 subscribers or something.
Yeah.
Which is like, and then
that's still a lot.
It's a lot, but it's also like 5.5 million, which is what World of Warcraft has. They're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Blizzard is thinking about how do you follow that game up.
Yeah, I just don't think. I don't think we'll. I guess the best way to put it from my perspective is that I don't think we'll ever see an MMORPG eclipse the peak of monthly subscribers for World of Warcraft.
No,
I
definitely
don't
not.
think it will ever happen, ever.
Not under that model for sure. Yeah, I don't see that ever happen. I don't see the idea unless the subscription is like substantially lower,
like $4.99 a month or something,
or less. Like because like.
And how did they come to that like $15 a month figure?
I'm sure you run the numbers about how many people do we think are going to play this? What do we need to like keep our heads above water in terms of server costs, bandwidth costs, development costs, creating new content?
Do you think it's crazy though? After all this time, World of Warcraft's monthly cost has never gone down.
Well, inflation means it probably should have gone up.
Why though? I mean, it's like you have that initial cost to buy all the servers and
buy the game. Remember, you still have to buy the game.
Yeah. Like to me, you would think that cost would eventually come down over time.
Maybe they're just like, maybe once it drops, we'll have 4 million people.
Well, I know why they haven't done it. They want to make the money, but if you're doing what's right by your customer.
I played World of Warcraft to the cap on a couple of characters. We played on XPlay back in the day, and I remember every once in a while I kind of like poke back into it, and I forget that there's no free to play option.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta
pay for this.
I'd kind of like to see my paladin again, but like. Nah, I just never get that far.
I just think the expectations for not even just MMORPGs, because there are a lot of free-to-play. In fact, it seems like every MMORPG that has been released in the last year and a half or 2 years has gone free-to-play. Especially in the last,
whether they like it or
6
not.
months. Yeah, a lot of it they have to survive. And so then you start looking at games like League of Legends and all the MOBAs that are all free, and you can play those for hundreds and hundreds of hours, never spend a dime.
But you do.
I never have, and I've played League and Dota for hundreds of hours. I've never spent a penny on either one of them. So, I mean, it's all cosmetic. If you care enough that your character has a blue robe or whatever, I just don't care about that
Just
stuff.
to my limited exposure to MOBAs, judging from what I've seen, yes, people do.
They do. Oh,
care.
yeah. Oh, for sure. The people who are really into it, they'll buy, their character sets.
And the way I originally found out about what League of Legends even was we were covering PAX for the show back in the day, and people were, I pride myself on knowing what people are cosplaying as, frankly,
right.
as a universal nerd.
Yeah.
I know, and people were walking around and stuff that I'm like, that's really cool. I have no idea what it is, and for a long time I was assuming it was some anime I hadn't watched, and finally some girl showed up to one of our.
It's Master Yi from League of Legends.
No, she was dressed as Morrigan. In the baking outfit with the tray of cookies and working wings. And the wings were 10 feet wide. It was crazy. Yeah. And I was like, what is that? And she's like, oh, I'm Morgan from League of Legends, and this is an alternate skin you can buy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I remember us all looking at each other going, what is this thing? Like, we got to look this up when we
no,
get
look,
home.
people do spend money on it. I haven't. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't. Like, when you play, you can tell someone spent money because they have a different skin or whatever. And most 80% of the people you play with or against have the base skins. So, but the point I'm getting at is that when people look at spending money on video games, they're looking for entertainment value. And how much am I going to get for how much I'm spending? And I feel like a lot of these MOBAs and other games, they, for the lack of a better term, they cheapen the value of a game. And so, spending the $60, I think people are okay with that. They're like, yep, you need to maintain these servers for the next 10 years or however long this MMO lasts. But when you start asking for that $15 every month after that, like, that's just an antiquated model. And I think the only people who are willing to do that now are the people who are so deep into World of Warcraft that they're never coming up.
They can't imagine.
They can't imagine. Yeah, exactly. And so Blizzard knows they have them for those people.
Yeah. And
there's no reason for them to change it.
At the same time, it's like, is it silly that we're so reticent to spend that kind of money on? Like I know there's a huge backlash right now in the new Star Trek series that was announced, where it's like this. It's going to premiere on CBS, but then the after that, they're going to be on this like CBS digital like service that you have to pay $6 for, and people are freaking out that they would have to pay $6 to watch Star Trek, and I'm like, I paid $13 last week for an amiibo of Mario. Like, why wouldn't I pay $6 to watch a show, a series that I want to see? And it's like it's because you've always gotten it free.
It's conditioned. It's the same thing with Sifted. Like, a lot of people are like, I love the site. I'll never pay you a penny for it. They're like, I think it's a great idea. It's really cool. It'll save me a ton of time, but I'm not paying you for it. And I get messages like that all the time, and I'm like, fair enough. It's your money. I'm not going to tell you to spend your money.
But like
But people are just used to getting websites for free. And people are used to getting television shows for free. And if it's not on HBO, I'm not paying for it. Like,
you don't want to pay $15 for a month for a game you enjoy, but you'll drop $15 for a sandwich and a drink at lunch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know why that, and I do it too. I don't know why that is a psychological thing built into us, but it's there. And I feel sorry. I feel for the marketing people. I don't say that very often, but I feel for the marketing people who have to sit there and figure out how to get past that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. It's like the basic subscription for Sifted is $10.
A year!
A year! And it's like, it's a Happy Meal at McDonald's. Like, I was like, I can't understand how anybody would not want to spend the $10 for all the advantages that you have of being in a private website without dealing with ads and all the other bullshit that just comes along
frankly,
with it.
I probably lose more change in a year.
Yeah, but you know what? Some people are like, $10 is nothing to me, bud. They just don't want to do it on principle.
But screw you for thinking you should get paid for your work.
Yeah, and some people are just like, well, they'll say things like, well, I just don't want to set a precedent. I don't want to pay for your website and to make all these other websites think that, all of a sudden I'm going to have to pay for them too. So,
well, the nice thing is that nobody watching this can get angry about
that. That's the beauty of it. They can't see it. Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of it. So, I think we're both in agreement that the monthly model is going the way of the dodo. It's going away.
And I mean, I assume that if I assume the new model that like games like Final Fantasy XIV and SWTOR have switched to are functional and sustainable for their games to continue, because I'm not a hardcore like addict. I've never stayed up all night to raid anything or whatever, but like I like those games once in a while, and I
you always have as long as I've known you.
And I like the idea of them.
And I've always hated them as long as you've known me.
I like the idea of them more than I like to play them sometimes, because I agree with you that the gameplay generally not very fun. But
I like the community aspect.
Community aspect's great. SWTOR, I like the storytelling. Secret World, I like the story. Really, if you get a good setting, like you got me in, and like sometimes.
See, here's the thing about games. It's like when you first start playing with people, it's very social. You guys are all there, you're typing messages to each other, or if you play a shooter, like you're all like, yeah, I'm in the back room, and there's one running by, blah, blah, blah. But after you play for like 45 minutes, everyone's just silent. And it's like you're not playing with it's like you're playing with just anonymous people after a while.
Well, it's like I've been playing with my friend on Halo 5, like we finished it over the weekend, and yeah, like by the end of it, we're just like, Promethean.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can only talk for so long, and so like I said, like the community.
Well, especially if you don't play with your online buddies as much as you see them in.
Right.
So like we the first night was just like catching up after like 3 months of not being online with each other, and like now tonight, like even after tonight, after this show, I'm gonna go back. We're gonna get the last achievement tonight, and we're just like. This is so tedious.
That's why I don't play MMORPGs, because I'm a sucker for the community part of it, but I also know that like after the first hour, I might as well be playing it with anybody in the world.
Oh, and as far as Halo 5 goes, I'm on the same page as you. I think we've established on overall, especially the story. The end of that game, no spoilers, but the end of that game should have happened in Mission 4.
Yeah.
Because that whole story of Halo 5 is in Act 1.
It is, really, yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the we're gonna wrap up the Big Six. If you guys have any questions for us, you should send them now. We are not doing a deep dive topic this week. Although
save that one for Fallout.
Yeah, next week's show is going to be a humdinger, my friends, because Matt and I will both have put in some time on Fallout 4 and I'll hopefully have put in a ton of time, and my review should probably be up by then, at least God willing, it'll be up. I may kill myself getting it done, but I'll do what I got to get it finished. So next week is going to be a monumental episode of GameFace. I can't actually think of any other game since the show launched that is as big as Fallout 4, as far as like the people on like the hosts. Like even when Marcus and I was doing it, I think even with him, if he were still on the show with me, it would be Fallout 4. The Witcher, close.
Witcher's bigger for me, but I'm also
bigger than Fallout.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm a Fallout fan from back original. I'm a Fallout fan from not just Fallout 1. I'm a Fallout fan from Wasteland. You know, back the old 1980s game that EA made, and then they had the rights, so the guys who made it couldn't make Wasteland 2, so they went and made Fallout.
Yeah.
So to me, Fallout will always be, which for me, Fallout was like, well, we're never getting Wasteland 2, so Fallout's good enough for me.
Yeah.
But now we actually do have Wasteland 2. But
yeah,
I think I like Fallout better a little bit right now.
Yeah. Well, next week we're going to be talking about Fallout. In fact, we may just dedicate the whole frickin' episode, because that's the type of game that Fallout is.
Well, if I get to play it enough, we'll see when I get it.
Certainly the deep dive will be all about Fallout. I know I'll have plenty to talk about. Let's see if we have any questions. Let's see. Oh, they're all scrolling in now. Let's see. Ask you, Shane, in regards to how stuff shows up in the sifted queue, or at least a way that could possibly improvement. Okay. What happened to the Super Mario Maker Hangout? What do you mean? It's up on Sifted. Just click on the premium content link, and the Hangout is there. We cut it down to the highlights. It's not the full 2 hours, but I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. But it's there. It's up on the site. Do you think Tomb Raider is being sent out to die is coming out the same day as Fallout 4? That's from W. Matthew. No, not at all. Like the audience for Tomb Raider and Fallout, I mean, there's some crossover there, but there are distinct audiences, I think. I don't think that you're going to lose a ton of people who would have bought one or the other. I think a lot of people will buy both, in all honesty. But I don't think it's being sent out to die. You have to eventually choose one weekend in November to release your big game in Q4. And it just so happened that, but I think, probably neither one of those publishers knew that was the day the other one was going to put their game out. And sometimes, unfortunately, that stuff happens. And I think I do remember a couple years ago, one game changed its release date at the last minute. Like once they found out it was, or no, I'm thinking of E3 where Square Enix changed its press conference when they found out it overlapped with Nintendo. That's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, there's only so much you can do. There's tons of money to go around in Q4, so I don't think that's a big deal at all. Let's see if we got any more. What do you think your favorite game of all time would receive if it got a sifted eval? Oh gosh. Oh, it would get a huge score. It would. My favorite game of all time is probably Ocarina of Time. And so if you're asking me if I did an eval before or when that game came out, doing it now, obviously.
Doing it now, connectivity would kill it.
Yeah.
Same with mine would be Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, but if I were to review it back when it came out, even if it got a 0 in connectivity, it would have got like 10s and everything else. And if we were talking about 8 separate scores, it probably still would have ended up at like a 9.5 or a 9.6. So, I mean, it was trailblazing. Like, it created, like, modern 3D video games, essentially. It created how we were going to play through... we playing Tomb Raider right now. I am playing Tomb Raider on the principles that were laid down by Ocarina of Time. Still. So...
that Z-targeting.
Yeah, I mean, just the swimming and, like, everything about it. Like, the automatic jumping and, like, you know, how it automatically grabs onto ledges. Like, all of that. Like, yeah. Like, Ocarina of Time would still do really, really well in a sifted game eval. Let's see. You want to know the schedule for the show from Gunzilla? Gunzilla, we're trying to do it every Tuesday going forward, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific. So, let's see. Could you possibly compile reviews so that I could find the reviews in one place instead of having 6 reviews for the same game show up? On Sifted, you mean? And that's from Vox91. We've actually cut down on the number of reviews that we curate. When we first started, we were kind of figuring things out and figuring out what worked and what didn't. And one of the biggest mistakes we made was like the day that the site launched. And we got this huge rush of people to Sifted. It just so happened to be the day that Splatoon came out. And at that point, we were still figuring things out. We had just launched the site. And so we had curated like 15 or 16 reviews for Splatoon. And it turned off a ton of people who came to Sifted. Because they came and it was literally... like a whole page full of Splatoon
fan site.
It was a big mistake, and we learned that one the hard way because it literally we could see in our numbers how many people came to the page, looked at it, and just left. And so from that day on, we just started cutting down the number of outlets that we were getting reviews from, and like a couple sites, like I started coming across like some nefarious like things where it seemed like maybe things were a little dodgy. So we've called it down now. There's really only about 8 sites that we grab reviews from at this point. And look, they're all people that we've worked with for a long time, and or at least I personally know, and I know how they run their editorial. So we have called it down a good bit. I mean, he's probably complaining now about Need for Speed because Need for Speed came out today, and there's a bunch of Need for Speed reviews. We actually are working on a thing called collections on the site, where we would be able to collect like all the reviews into one like page that you could go to. But that's not done yet. So we're looking at it. We know that it's an issue that some people have a problem with. Although I will say I do kind of find it funny that how irritated people get over like a scroll wheel on their mouse.
Just keep going.
It's like it's not gonna hurt you. It's just moving that finger. That's all it is. It's just moving that finger. It's not so bad. Okay, let's see if we can find one more. Oh, Tom Andy, you're asking about the hangout where I played your levels for Super Mario Maker. Gotcha. I don't know. I almost feel like that ship has sailed. It's Super Mario Maker. It's been out for like a month. If I find time to do hangouts, like I kind of want to do them for games that aren't out yet. It's a possibility, but I'm not going to make any promises. Question from Netflix. Do you have plans for a possible watch or read later feature to save articles for later viewing? Yep, we're looking into it. I don't know if the way the site's infrastructure is built, if it's going to be possible, though. So it's something we've looked at. It was one of the biggest suggestions we got when the site first launched, and we've been kind of looking at it. But like getting the forums done right now is the biggest priority, and I think you guys are going to see why it took so long for the forums, because when you see them, they're pretty freaking awesome. So hopefully you see those forums, and you won't want some of this other little stuff quite as much. There's a bunch of other stuff that comes with the forums as well, like user-to-user messaging and things like that too. So, yeah. It's something we've been looking at. I can't make any promises. Tommy Andy says, so yeah, that's a no. Not yet. I wouldn't say that's a total no. Or maybe you're talking about the Super Mario Maker.
Mario Maker, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Sifted app. Again, trying to get the forums done and finishing up the base website before we move on to the app. So our TriCaster operator, Tony, has alerted us to the fact that we did not run our trailer of the week.
That's true.
So we are going to do that. We're going to run our trailer of the week, and this is for a Platinum game that's published by Square Enix, and the game is called, I don't know, is it Nier or Nier? Nier.
Yeah.
Automata, and it's an action RPG that has the combat from Platinum that we've been asking for. It's not an MMORPG, but they had showed a trailer. I think it was for E3. They showed the debut trailer, which was like all cinematic. This is the first gameplay trailer that shows off Platinum doing his best work. So here we go. Here is the gameplay debut trailer for Nier Automata. And there it is. It's got that crazy little floating, like, grapple point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how that's working yet. But,
yeah. I've never seen anything like it in a game before.
But I'm glad to see Nier come back. I mean, if you haven't played the first Nier, go track it down. It's
underrated.
It's underrated. It's pretty special. It's got amazing music. And while the combat isn't as good as what we just saw there, it has this weird mix of like some of the boss battles are like bullet hell shooters, but with a guy with a sword.
Yeah.
And it's worth playing.
Yeah, I think the game's worth some money too, actually.
Last I checked, it was worth like $9 on it. It was like $9 on Amazon.
Apparently, I'm
wrong. But I might have changed. I've owned it since launch, so I might be. Now maybe it's like one of those things where like some of those last gen things just suddenly shoot up in value because they become the collector's items.
JRPGs a lot of times.
Especially with a sequel coming out, a lot of people are going to want to play it. Digital version, maybe, boys.
Yeah. So I did dig up a couple more questions. It's always hard, like, getting through your questions while we're doing it live, but while we were watching the trailer, I was able to get a couple more. Earlier, you mentioned you sent out a game eval to a freelancer. I'm assuming this is a person who sifted trust in their opinions and capabilities. In this case, the person that is reviewing Need for Speed, his name is Scott Allen Marriott. He has worked for me for 12 years. So he was our primary freelancer at Game Trailers for a decade, literally. Like, he was our ace in the hole. If our staff guys couldn't get to stuff, he was the guy who would always do it. So you have, if you followed me at GT or followed GT at all, you have read dozens and dozens of his reviews already. So to answer your question, yes, I trust Scott Marriott extensively with evaluating games. And also, any of the people who are evaluating games as freelancers on Sifted, they have been thoroughly vetted. And so, yeah. Hopefully, I've been doing this for a long time. I have a pretty good eye for people who know what they're talking about. Hopefully you can trust me on that one. So, let's see. I think that's it, man. I think that's time to wrap up the show. So, as always, thanks for watching. We appreciate all you guys who show up for the live stream. Without you, it would make the end of the show really stupid. So, thank you for asking questions and making sure that we have a good engagement. Like I said, don't forget Gifted is launching this coming week. It's a really important initiative for us. I mean, look, if you have friends who are really into games and you want them to be a part of the Sifted community, can you really think of a better Christmas present to buy them than a subscription to Sifted so they can come and enjoy the site together with your friends? And like I said, if you have friends who maybe can't afford it and maybe their parents can buy it for them for Christmas, just let them know about the new program. It would be awesome. So everybody have an excellent week. We are going to have an awesome GameFace next week. I've been fighting with putting down Rise of the Tomb Raider for Fallout 4 for like 2 days now, but I feel like I'm coming down the home stretch with Rise of the Tomb Raider. So next week is going to be a great episode, and we'll see you there. GameFace is up and out.